What's up, guys? Don't forget to smash that like button, drop a comment, hype up the video, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe and join the family. Guys, if you want to support the channel and get something cool, check the first link in the description. Use my code HugoHenriqueMore to get 10% off on anime lamps. The warrior orders Desmond to listen carefully and declares that from this day on he wants him out of the clan. The boy, kneeling before him, is confused and stunned, asking Adele why he's being expelled. Irritated, Adele snaps if he really has to explain everything, saying the dungeon run failed because Desmond didn't bother scouting for enemies and even used, without permission, an absurdly expensive teleportation spellbook. Calling him an incompetent enchanter, Adele accuses him of failing the patrol. Desmond replies that he used the enhanced scent spell properly to track enemies, but the failure happened because they ignored his report while digging through treasure. Even more irritated, Adele strikes him and demands if Desmond is mocking him, ordering him to stop blaming others for his own mistakes. He declares that this is Desmond's problem. He can only use basic enchantment magic. He asks if he's trying to pin the blame on him, but the boy, wounded, insists he never would. Adele continues, reminding him that a year ago he took him in when he was just a novice abandoned at the guild, but now he's showing ingratitude, so he'll cut him off. At that moment, a red-haired girl approaches and tells him to stop. She argues that inside a dungeon it's one thing, but acting like this is a bad idea. Desmond recognizes her and calls her name, Marina. Adele, clutching the boy's shirt, curses her for interfering. Marina, saying she's a mage too, asks what patrol method he used. Desmond answers, enhanced fragrance. She points out that with just that, it wouldn't be enough to locate enemies and calls him a liar. The boy tries to explain, but Marina cuts him off, reminding him that his enchantment magic should boost physical stats by 20, to which he confirms. The redhead calls him useless, saying it should normally boost by 30. Marina then stresses that the whole city is watching them, since even as novices they cleared a high-level dungeon and are being called supernovas, so they don't need to carry dead weight. Head bowed, Desmond thinks that his enchantments are exactly what allowed them to get this far and wonders if they wouldn't be in trouble without a mage like him. Soon, Caroso appears and assures him not to worry, as he already arranged a replacement. The door opens and a rank B mage enters, introducing herself enthusiastically as the newest member of the famous Sword. Adele smirks, pushes back Desmond's hair from his face, and tells him to look. She's a rank B, able to use advanced enchantments, her aura completely different from that of a rank D like him. Marina comments it's a shame, but he's officially fired. Caroso adds that Desmond probably planned to take advantage of their skills and benefits, but won't get the chance. Adele calls him trash and orders him to leave. The boy walks out as everyone laughs and celebrates. Before leaving, he activates his appraisal eye, which allows him to see stats as numbers, and realizes that even with advanced spells, that mage couldn't really handle rank C dungeons, much less B. He reflects that even without deep bonds, they'd spent a year together as novices, promising to work hard side by side, and he believed they were comrades. Later, alone somewhere else, he sighs, wondering what to do, since he can't survive without forming a group. After being rejected, he knows he can't just join any random team. Suddenly, a noise echoes and he sees a boy collapsed on the ground, terrified, asking how a catoblepas could be there. It's a rank B magical beast. The boy, panicked, admits he's just rank D and can't handle it. A girl with him, rank B, urges him to calm down, says they can do it together, and casts a strength buff on him. The boy charges, but the creature hurls him aside easily and roars, opening its jaws at the two. Desmond watches, thinking that despite everything, he never managed to make them understand, but he knows his enchantments truly raise allies' stats. Gripping his magic focus, he casts a strength buff. The beast turns its eyes on him, and the boy, now with the sword reinforced by the spell, rushes and lands a serious blow. The boy is thrilled, and his partner is stunned. Desmond then casts agility, and the young warrior strikes again, finishing the beast. The enchanter thinks it's not just 20, it's 20 times. The creature falls, defeated, and the boy, incredulous, asks if it was really him who did that and how he managed to defeat a rank B enemy. The girl can't believe it either, and they both marvel at the feat. Desmond walks away, reflecting that he tried explaining many times, but they never understood. Passing down a street, he senses someone watching. A figure with long hair asks if he really is Desmond. He keeps walking until stopping with a paper in hand, thinking that if he wants to keep exploring dungeons, he needs to join a new clan. Dungeons are ancient ruins scattered across the world, full of resources, forgotten knowledge, and dormant treasures. They're what people live off and what fuels humanity's growth. To explore them, a group must be formed, but Desmond knows his attributes make it hard to find allies. He believes his low strength is due to his enchanter class, which demands high intelligence. Yet his intelligence has never risen even once, and he suspects it's a side effect of using multiplicative magic. Still, the gain is so small it's becoming frustrating. While thinking, a girl approaches and asks if he's looking for a clan. Desmond confirms, admitting he was expelled from his last one. She reacts surprised and comments that some groups don't know how to value talent. He finds the phrase odd until he recognizes her. Cynthia. The girl smiles, saying it's been a while. The enchanter agrees, remembering it's been 3 years since they left their hometown. Feeling a wave of nostalgia, Cynthia says she never thought she'd meet him in Bristol. He answers that it's really good to see her again and, noticing the badge on her belt, asks if that's a Rank S license. Desmond remarks he's never seen one up close. Cynthia, not wanting to show off, confirms. He praises her, saying she should be proud, since there are so few Rank S in the world, and as her childhood friend, he feels proud of her. She's happy with his words. Desmond blushes, thinking how beautiful she still is. 2 years older, now 17, she was always strong since childhood. She was the person he admired most, and the reason he left the village to become an adventurer was so he could one day be by her side. He remembers the promises they made as kids, when they said they'd conquer even a Rank S dungeon together, and feels a tightness in his chest for still carrying that memory. Later, elsewhere, someone asks about the sword. Cynthia explains it's the group everyone talks about, novices who already cleared Rank B dungeons. She adds that it's natural, since Desmond was part of it. Surprised, he asks what she means, and Cynthia affirms that even in the village, his enchantments were always the best. The sword only achieved so much because of him. Desmond thinks about how he almost revealed his multiplication magic back then, and realizes she always knew. Cynthia then gazes at him with a slight smile and says that if he's free, things can move quickly. She asks what he thinks about joining her clan. He's taken aback, asking if it's really her clan. Cynthia explains that the admission exam will be tomorrow, but she's sure he'll pass. Desmond thinks it's a generous offer, though he's only rank D. He reflects that if he accepts, he could fight alongside the person he always admired. He thanks her, admitting he's not sure he'll pass, but promises to try. Cynthia cheers, saying she's serious and that they'll sign up right away. He calls her name and Cynthia apologizes, saying that, come to think of it, she hasn't mentioned the name yet. The clan is called Chevalier Garden. She says it's somewhat known and asks if he's heard of it. Desmond thinks, of course he knows. Chevalier Garden is Bristol's greatest clan and the strongest. It's said to have the largest number of adventurers in the world and that its leading force is closest to conquering any unexplored Rank S dungeon. He then says he's changed his mind. Cynthia holds his hand and tells him to fulfill the promise they made when they were children. Desmond becomes emotional as he remembers the pact to conquer an S-rank dungeon together and realizes that she hasn't forgotten either. The enchantment mage is left speechless, thinking that something like that is impossible for him. On the day of the exam, someone hands him the number 55 and tells him to wait until it begins. The boy takes the slip and, looking around, wonders if that really is a castle. He thinks that, as expected of the largest and strongest clan in Bristol, the number of applicants is massive, and he never imagined that Cynthia would be in the Chevalier Garden. The test is conducted in groups of 4, and the requirement to pass is to defeat 10 goblins in a D-rank dungeon. The content seems basic, and Desmond questions what Cynthia is doing there. A voice thanks everyone for waiting. He looks toward it and sees a woman announcing that before the exam, they will receive a motivational greeting from the commander of the 1st Brigade of the Chevalier Garden, Cynthia McDaniel. The crowd cheers with excitement to see her, while Desmond is stunned to realize that his childhood friend is the commander of the 1st Brigade. The Chevalier Garden is the prestigious clan founded by the Viscount, and the 1st Brigade is made up of only 5 members chosen among the best adventurers in the world, forming the strongest group. Moreover, the leader is Cynthia. She approaches, drawing every gaze with her beauty. Cynthia smiles and says she is happy that so many applicants have come, asking them to demonstrate their skills and complete the exam without regrets. She declares that the clan eagerly awaits the day they can fight side by side with them. Desmond stares with his mouth open, still shocked, while those around him comment that if they pass, they'll have the chance to fight alongside her. They say it's the first time they've seen her in person and that she is incredibly beautiful. Desmond thinks that in a way it doesn't feel real. As her childhood friend, he feels joy for her, but also a lonely emptiness seeing how far she has come. At that moment, someone tugs on his shirt and calls him Des. It's Cynthia who thanks him for watching her. The enchantment mage is startled and ends up shouting, drawing attention. Everyone notices that the commander is there, murmuring that it really is her, and that up close, she is even more beautiful. Amid questions and whispers, Cynthia surprises him by giving him a kiss and wishing him good luck in the exam, assuring him that she will support him from behind the scenes. Desmond, dazed, only manages to thank her. Confident, he thinks he will do his best, pass the test, and join the same clan as her. Soon, someone asks to pass, startling him again. Looking back, a candidate asks if he holds the number 55. Desmond confirms and realizes they've been grouped. The girl introduces herself as Rin, a frontline swordswoman. Then another young woman approaches, introducing herself as Dorothy, a mage, also with the number 55. He notices her voice is soft. Soon after, a boy named Garand, a shield bearer, appears, saying he is counting on him. The enchantment mage also introduces himself, and everyone from group number 55 says it is a pleasure to meet him. Later, already in front of the designated dungeon, the examiner announces that this will be Group 55's challenge. They must enter and defeat 10 goblins, or they can withdraw to end the exam. Desmond thinks that even though it is a D-level dungeon, there are still risks and they must act carefully. Rin, excited, runs ahead. The others try to warn her that it's dangerous, while other candidates whisper that it's a shame. That group seems destined to fail. The teams were assigned randomly, and number 55 ended up full of novices, considered by many to be the worst formation in history. Desmond hears the comments and wonders what kind of group this is and if he really is that unlucky when it comes to teams. The Terrible Skull Dungeon was once ranked B, famous for rare artifacts found inside, but after the core known as the Dungeon Heart was destroyed, it dropped to rank D and became just a den of weak monsters. The protagonist thinks it has been a while since he last explored a D-rank dungeon. When he was with Adele and the others, they quickly advanced to rank B and found countless rare items. But he always received the smallest share and wonders when they started treating him so poorly. Realizing he doesn't have good memories of that clan, he reflects on the comments that his new group might be the worst formation in history and questions whether they might actually be frightening people. Rin rushes forward without meaning to, bumps into his face and jumps on him, asking what's wrong, why he looks so scared, and if he's hungry. With a smile, she offers him a snack as a special gift. Desmond refuses, but the blonde insists, saying it's delicious. He accepts a piece and thinks it really is good. As he chews, he remembers his old group, when he was overwhelmed with requests and, along with Adele, barely had time to eat. Dorothy approaches and asks if he's okay, offering him water. Then Garand adds that if he doesn't feel well, he has some medicine. Desmond thanks them, thinking they don't seem like bad people, and asks why they decided to take the Chevalier Garden exam. Rin answers first. She reveals she is the third daughter of a rural noble family and that, since she was young, she loved swords. She dreamed of becoming an adventurer, but her parents forbade her, wanting her to marry. That's why she now intends to become the greatest adventurer in the world and prove her dream was not wrong. The protagonist turns to Garand and asks why he chose to be a shield bearer. The redhead answers that the role of a shield bearer is to protect everyone, and asks if another reason is really necessary. Then Desmond questions Dorothy. The mage, with a quiet voice, reveals that her parents are members of the Chevalier Garden, and that to repay their kindness, she also wants to join. Desmond comments that this is a great reason, but she, embarrassed, replies that it's nothing special and starts apologizing repeatedly. The enchantment mage reflects, thinking that everyone has legitimate reasons and that maybe calling that group the worst party in history was a mistake. In fact, to him, they all seem kind people, and he admits to himself that he may have the most impure motivations of all. He then decides he will do his best, pass the exam, and present himself to his partner. At that moment, Garand notices dirt on his shoulder and leans to clean it but collapses to the ground. Desmond tells him to stop the act and that he doesn't need to exaggerate so much, but soon realizes he isn't responding. Alarmed, he approaches and calls his name, while Rin watches and warns that the redhead isn't breathing. Desmond quickly asks for a healing potion. Garand soon wakes up and apologizes, saying it was his fault. Rin comments that there aren't many potions left and Desmond agrees, saying that if he's going to faint, at least let it be during battle. Garand apologizes again, explaining he tried to be careful. The enchantment mage wonders if this means he usually collapses like this daily and thinks in disbelief that it can't be possible. He then activates his appraisal eye skill and begins to analyze the group. First, he observes Rin, the vanguard and main attacker. Her agility is high, but her strength is only 6, which makes it difficult to even defeat a goblin. Next, he evaluates Garand, the shield bearer. As a defender, he should be the team's pillar, but his vitality is only 3, meaning even a cat's blow could knock him out. Dorothy notices his expression and asks if something is wrong. Desmond denies it and then uses the appraisal eye on her, the mage responsible for long-range attacks. He notices that she has 10 intelligence, capable of casting considerable offensive magic, and comments that this is impressive. The girl thanks him but quickly adds that she will end up dying. Surprised, he asks why, and Dorothy explains that she doesn't have enough mana, being able to cast magic only once per day. Desmond smiles in disbelief, confirming, just 8 MP points, practically nothing. At that moment, he understands the meaning of the worst party in history, an attacker Incapable of defeating even one enemy, a shield bearer who collapses with a single blow, and a mage who can only cast once. On top of that, he himself only masters basic enchantment magic. He admits they form the weakest group in history. The situation is serious, and he thinks he must immediately cast support magic to strengthen them. Otherwise, not only will they fail the exam, but they may be wiped out. At that moment, he notices enemies approaching and warns everyone not to move, preparing to use enhancement. Rin, however, impulsively charges forward, shouting that whoever attacks first wins. Desmond widens his eyes and thinks this is really bad. Rin strikes the first blow against the enemy but fails to cause even a scratch. She comments that it's not so bad and assumes it must be the dungeon boss when suddenly a goblin approaches from behind Desmond and someone shouts for him to be careful. Garand stumbles with every step and falls, forced to drink another potion. A voice scolds him, saying that if he's going to collapse, at least let it be in battle, and questions why he chose to become a shield bearer. The redhead answers that he needs no reason beyond wanting to save people. Desmond watches worriedly, remembering there's only one healing potion left, and asks him to be more careful. Garand apologizes but ends up falling again, and the enchantment mage thinks anxiously that there are no more potions left and he doesn't know what to do. More goblins approach him to attack when Rin steps in front and takes the blow in his place. The swordswoman falls wounded, leaving Desmond shocked and outraged, saying this is madness since she's an attacker, not a defender. Rin, even injured, replies that she couldn't just stand by and watch her companions be defeated in silence. The enchantment mage, impressed by her resolve, asks if she isn't afraid of losing the ability to hold a sword, reminding her that she dreamed of becoming the greatest adventurer in the world to prove her dream wasn't wrong. Rin agrees, but states that her comrades are more important than any ambition. The protagonist is left speechless. Dorothy interrupts, warning that 7 goblins are approaching. Garand, shield in hand, steps forward to the front line, but Desmond warns him there are no more potions, and if he falls this time, he'll lose his life. Garand looks at him, admitting he isn't strong, but declares that even if he falls, he doesn't care, because if it's to protect his companions, even a corpse can serve as a shield. At that moment, Dorothy asks for permission and steps closer, saying she can only cast one spell. She explains that to pass the exam, they need to defeat 10 goblins, but if she uses her magic now, it could jeopardize their approval. Still, if it's to save everyone, she'll use it as long as he gives the order. Desmond stops her, reminding her she wanted to pass the exam to repay her adoptive parents. Dorothy agrees, but adds that passing while abandoning her companions would be meaningless. The protagonist reflects on the word comrades and says that even though they are only temporary partners for the exam and have known each other for a short time, they've already formed bonds. They ask if time together really matters when it comes to becoming companions, and Desmond becomes emotional, tears filling his eyes. The goblins advance. Garand raises his shield, hoping to withstand the assault, and closes his eyes. Mana flows toward him, strengthening him. Surprised, the redhead manages to repel the attacks and even knock down enemies, finding it impossible to have such strength. Rin explains that it isn't just him, but Desmond's power. The enchantment mage, eyes closed, concentrates his magic and thinks that he wants to pass the exam together with these people. He acknowledges that even if they fail, there will always be another chance. But it wouldn't be the same with others. He wants to share the joy of that victory with them, something he never had with Adele and the old group, even after a year together. Inspired, he declares that everyone must trust him, that from now on they will follow his instructions, and together they will pass the exam. He releases his magic and orders Dorothy to prepare the spell. The mage, nervous because she only has one chance, recalls his words of trust, raises her magical focus, and replies that she understands. Desmond directs the group. He asks them to buy time until Dorothy finishes her casting and tells Rin to hold the enemies at the front. The blonde asks if it will really be just her, but seeing the determination in the enchanter's eyes, she smiles and charges forward, declaring she won't let them through. Rin attacks with energy and an intense light explodes, throwing the goblins far away. Excited, she smiles and comments that it's amazing, thinking it's the first time she's defeated so many enemies at once, and recognizing Desmond's power. New goblins approach. The enchantment mage calls for Garand and instructs him to focus on defending the rear. He then casts his physical enhancement spell. The redhead takes a firm stance, raising his shield, and manages to block the attacks with surprising resilience. Sounds of battle echo as Dorothy, taking a deep breath, prepares her decisive magic. Dorothy opens her eyes and unleashes her powerful spell. Desmond points to the passage on the right and asks if she can see it. The mage confirms, and he announces he will enhance her magic now, telling her to cast with full power. Surprised, Dorothy asks what he means by enhance. The enchanter closes his eyes and releases his power, amplifying her spell until it becomes vast and overwhelming. The girl panics, telling him to wait, to stop. that it's too big, incredible, and it's going to break. Desmond holds her hand and tells her it's okay, that she can trust him. The mage takes a deep breath, calms herself, and closes her eyes, casting the spell. He thinks quickly. There are 7 goblins before them, and they need to eliminate 10 in total to pass the exam. When he used the enhanced scent to track the dungeon, he discovered there were more enemies in the adjacent area. If he increases the spell's range and power, he can strike them all. The spell surges forth, and a colossal explosion consumes the goblins. When the smoke clears, Desmond observes the result carefully and mutters that this is bad. A light surrounds the group, and then all of them emerge from the portal. Dorothy apologizes, and Desmond reflects that he got so carried away with his new friends that he lost control. Garand, worried, asks if it's okay since they destroyed the goblins in the dungeon itself. The examiner approaches and assures them it's not a problem. He says they passed and were the fastest group to complete the exam. He hands them the approval papers and calls for Desmond, praising him as incredible, asking how a rank D, especially an enchanter, managed something so powerful. He comments that even a rank B lost confidence after witnessing it. The group is officially approved. Elsewhere, a staff member congratulates them and hands out member cards, making them official members of the Chevalier Garden. Rin celebrates happily, hugs Desmond, and says it was all thanks to him. He replies that no, everyone deserves credit. The group then notices nearby warriors, and the enchanter is surprised, wondering if they are foreigners. People comment that that was Group 55, once called the worst formation, but in truth, they had an incredible enchanter. They say he wiped out the goblins with a spell, tracked enemies, and even shook the confidence of a rank B examiner. Desmond thinks there are many rumors about him, but it's not a bad thing, and he even feels happy. Rin smiles and comments that everyone talks about him, but that the whole group should be proud since they are part of it. He replies that it's not like that. Garand insists he doesn't need to be modest, that his magic was decisive. Desmond thanks them, stating that he is only a support enchanter, and that the true reason they won was their mutual trust and effort. The swordswoman blushes, embarrassed, and announces that they are going to get married. He, confused, asks why. Later, in the same place, the enchanter comments that maybe it's time to part ways. Everyone lowers their heads in silence. Dorothy, saddened, says it's true, that they were only a temporary group formed for the exam, but that no matter who they join in the future, she will never forget that formation, because it was the best. Rin recalls that the guild member card has the group number written on it and asks if they aren't all at the same table. They check, look at each other, and realize they truly belong to the same group. Rin, smiling, says it's a pleasure to officially meet them, while Dorothy shyly lowers her head. Soon the swordswoman suggests a celebration, declaring that nothing compares to drinking in victory. Desmond asks if it would be a victory party. Garand answers yes, that drinking is the best way to celebrate. The enchantment mage thinks he'd like to tell his partner about this, but doesn't know where she is. It's no longer simple to meet her, and that makes him feel a little lonely. Later, at a restaurant, glasses are raised and they all toast to their victory. The members who cleared the dungeon are there, as well as Cynthia, hooded. The others find her presence strange, not recognizing her, and ask who that girl is. Rin comments that since it's just a celebration, there are other places available. At that moment, Desmond notices something, stares at her, and asks if she is his partner. Everyone is surprised, and the hooded girl, smiling, answers no, that she is not Cynthia. Dorothy finds it strange and asks why Desmond calls Cynthia only by her first name without any honorifics, and if they have some kind of relationship. McDonald sighs, apologizes for suddenly interrupting, and admits that she knows it's not appropriate to act so emotionally, but explains that she has known Desmond since childhood. She says she heard about his passing the exam and wanted to celebrate together. The enchantment mage feels embarrassed, thinking she really came there because of him. The mage insists, asking if the two are childhood friends. Cynthia answers not to misunderstand because just being childhood friends doesn't mean she is showing favoritism. He passed the exam on his own merit, not because of his connection with her. Rin intervenes, saying that everyone knows that since they were the ones who witnessed firsthand how amazing Desmond is. McDonald reflects that she had never called him that way before, but now, as she hugs him, realizes that she herself is the one causing trouble and asks them to relax with the formalities. Cynthia then pulls on his shirt and teases, asking if it isn't an exaggeration to say that Rin knows him better, just because they formed a group together. The swordswoman retorts that no, because they risked their lives in the exam, so she understands more than anyone else. The two stare at each other firmly until the waiter arrives with a roasted chicken. Garand intervenes, saying the food has arrived and they should start the victory celebration. At night, still during the meal, someone calls Desmond Des and offers him a piece of food, commenting that it's delicious. The protagonist feels embarrassed, not understanding how the situation reached that point. Cynthia and Rin insist on feeding him directly, glaring at each other. McDonald comments that, in that case, something lighter would be better so as not to overload his stomach. But Rin counters that he worked hard all day and deserves something richer. Desmond thinks that in truth, it's this situation weighing on his stomach. Dorothy steps in and tells them both to stop, suggesting that if he's tired, he should drink milk. Garand, distracted, enjoys the pasta and praises it aloud. Desmond thanks everyone for their concern but asks to eat on his own. Rin insists he should choose carefully, and Cynthia agrees, saying that as his childhood friend, it's obvious he would choose her. Rin protests, saying that obviously he would choose her, his teammate. Desmond tries to explain they're talking about food, but Rin jokes, asking if he's going to eat her, calling him bold. McDonald, surprised, questions, since when he started acting so daringly, leaving him confused. Cynthia sighs and soon someone suggests they say aloud what they want. McDonald bangs on the table and declares that at this rate they won't get anywhere with the meal. Rin and Cynthia then shout at the same time that they'll decide right there who Des should choose. The two start competing over dishes, tasting together to see which food is better. After several plates, Desmond thinks that this is indeed the victory celebration. Rin stands up and excuses herself to get another dish, but ends up dropping the tray. Plates slip and are about to fall. Desmond warns them to be careful, but when they look in his direction, they get distracted and end up letting food spill on them and the others. The enchantment mage smiles and comments that if it hits Garand, he won't survive. The two look at the redhead and conclude that the true enemy was him. Rin puts her arm around Cynthia's shoulder and invites her to drink. McDonald accepts and says they'll drink until they drop. Desmond thinks that somehow the celebration turned into fun chaos. Later, already outside after drinking a lot, everyone comments that it was chaotic but lively. Desmond thanks his partner for having come to celebrate with them, confessing it was his first time celebrating alongside companions and that he is very happy. Cynthia smiles and replies that she understands and also found it good to have come. The enchantment mage adds that he's happy they're in the same clan, even if the 1st and 5th brigades are far apart. McDonald retorts that if it's him, soon he'll be in the 1st. Desmond, embarrassed, says that's an exaggeration. Cynthia thinks that maybe it's going too far, but even as a polite remark, she believes he has the potential to support the core of the Chevalier Garden. She also admits she's glad Desmond's friends are members of the group since they are pleasant people despite some flaws. Silently, she confesses that, in truth, she would have liked to celebrate alone with him. Desmond looks at her, but Cynthia quickens her pace and says it's nothing, that from tomorrow on she'll be counting on him. Calling him Daisy, the enchantment mage blushes and replies that he'll be counting on her too. The next day, in a shop full of potions, a voice comments how amazing it is to see such a variety of products. Dorothy talks about healing potions and antidotes against poison. Desmond remembers that the next exploration will be their first official mission as members of the Chevalier Garden and says they need to be fully prepared. He takes the chance to ask if it's right to split the cost of items among members. The mage explains there's no problem with money, just send the receipt and the clan itself will handle the payment. The enchanter is surprised and thinks that back in the sword he paid for everything alone. As expected of Bristol's greatest clan, the Chevalier Garden is generous, but that also means they expect a lot from each one, and he'll have to give his all. Thinking of the old sword, he feels a pang of nostalgia. After buying several potions, he and Dorothy leave the shop. Desmond wonders what Adele might be doing at that moment. In Bristol's northern district, inside the C-rank dungeon known as Green Bites, Adele pants alongside his group, surrounded by goblins. Irritated, he complains that they can't even defeat simple monsters. A goblin approaches and he blocks it, but is soon knocked down. Marina cries out for him but can't run to his aid because she is also under attack. She calls for Carozzo, reminding him that as the shield bearer he should protect properly. The blonde replies that he's busy, but the redhead rebukes him, saying he hasn't done anything. He asks why she doesn't cast magic, and Marina says she can't. He replies she already used it once that day. Exasperated, Adele orders them to use the teleportation book. Outside the dungeon, they regroup. Adele, furious, complains that the other day they were exploring a B-rank dungeon, and now, in a C rank against goblins, they're being humiliated by the weakest monsters. The blonde sneers, asking if maybe they entered an S-rank dungeon by mistake. Marina replies no, since goblins appear only in lower-level dungeons, and suggests maybe they're just having a bad day. The mage accompanying them observes and says the rumors were different, that they weren't exaggerating. Adele snaps back, asking what she meant, accusing her of being responsible for the enhancement magic that didn't work. He blames her, saying now they're paying for it and she should support the group properly. The mage gets angry and tells them not to blame her, since it's clear they're the incompetent ones. Carozzo can't hold the enemies, Marina barely cast low-level spells and already ran out, and Adele was knocked down easily by a goblin. To her, it's obvious the so-called sword is nothing but a weak group, and she demands not to be blamed for their incompetence. Adele, furious, grabs her shirt and says she's being arrogant, declaring she's fired and that he'll eliminate her. The mage reacts quickly, strikes him, and throws him hard to the ground, slamming him against the rocks. She smiles with disdain, calls him weak, and refuses to work with such a useless group. She declares she never wants any connection with them again and leaves. Adele rises, grinding his teeth in fury, and mutters that all enchanters are useless and irritating. Meanwhile, Desmond thinks that this is his first mission as an official member and wants it to be successful. He reflects that if he keeps working hard and piling up results, maybe one day he'll be able to join the 1st Brigade, just like Cynthia. He wonders what the assigned job will be. Dorothy explains that the 5th Brigade also handles special missions, but believes today will be just a simple dungeon exploration, something basic for a first job. Rin, confident, states they'll clear everything quickly. The mage, serious, warns it's not good to underestimate any mission. Desmond smiles, happy to move forward alongside this group, and feeling that he's beginning to enjoy himself. Around them, other groups also gather. A murmur spreads, and Dorothy asks what's going on, since something strange seems to be circulating in the clan. Garand comments that everyone seems to be whispering something. Rin says they're talking about them after all. They were the group that passed the exam fastest and achieved the highest number of goblin eliminations. The voices around begin to whisper, saying it doesn't seem like a coincidence. That group only managed to form thanks to connections. They comment that they're being looked down on, that they heard the boy is Cynthia's childhood friend, and that the bespectacled mage also has a guardian within the clan. They point out that they eliminated an extraordinary number of goblins and still shamelessly boast. They call it cheating and say they should leave. Soon the shouts grow louder, calling them cheaters. Desmond tries to intervene, asking for calm and explaining that it's all a misunderstanding, that they didn't cheat. At that moment, a firm voice interrupts, saying, "That's enough." Everyone turns toward the speaker and sees a man introducing himself as Brant, captain of the 5th Brigade. The enchanter thinks it may be true. The captain of the 5th Brigade is there, but he looks completely drunk. A subordinate hits him, asking him to compose himself, and Brant, staggering, says he'll explain today's mission. He announces that the designated dungeon is the Mervel Ice Cave. The main objective is to reach the deepest part and collect the Jewel of Wisdom, a rare B-grade item. He stresses that it's a high-difficulty challenge, not a place they can simply stroll into. Desmond thinks in alarm. All of them are rank D adventurers of the 5th Brigade, and if they enter a B-rank dungeon, they'll be annihilated. Just one trap or monster could wipe them out. He wonders why Brant would send them there, even considering his enhancement magic, with no guarantee of victory. Brant continues, saying this is Chevalier policy and they must understand the meaning of belonging to the group. The enchantment mage reflects on what it really means to belong to the Chevalier Garden, one of Bristol's greatest organizations with enormous scale, imposing buildings, and thousands of members. The captain, in a harsh tone, declares that rank Ds like them are just disposable, pawns that can be sacrificed. He tells them not to make such a fuss and reminds them that everyone is replaceable. The comment leaves most outraged. Desmond thinks that, indeed, large organizations use numbers as an advantage, but he doesn't want to believe Cynthia's clan functions like a dark guild. The atmosphere grows tense, the pressure frightening, and he only hopes nothing worse happens. Brant then states that, with this in mind, the next mission will be a battle of absolute numbers. 6 groups of the 5th Brigade will be sent together. However, acting separately would be useless, so they will assign a leader to whom everyone must obey without question. Revolt spreads. Everyone murmurs indignantly, asking how long they'll be treated like fools. Desmond feels the air heavy, suffocating, and thinks this can't work. If there has to be a leader, he definitely doesn't want it to be him, until a voice announces Group 55. Everyone turns, and Brant, even more drunk, raises his cup, saying it's a pleasure to meet them. A loud noise echoes, and Desmond, at the front, trembles uncontrollably. In the Mervel Ice Cave, the atmosphere shifts immediately. It is a B-rank dungeon, highly dangerous. As soon as they enter, the temperature plummets, just as the name suggests. A voice comments in awe at the sight. The entire interior covered in ice, even though it's an artificial dungeon created by ancient peoples. Rin notices she doesn't feel cold at all. Desmond explains he cast cold resistance enchantments on everyone. The 2 girls confirm, asking if that means they won't feel the cold anymore. He answers yes, reminding them that heavy winter clothing restricts movement, but with enchantment they can move freely. Dorothy is impressed, but he warns the spell isn't permanent and will have to be renewed later. Rin clings to his arm, saying he's amazing and confessing she hates the cold, so she'd love to have him at her house to cast the spell always. Desmond, embarrassed, comments about domestic heating devices. Then he remembers this is a dangerous dungeon, and one slip could cost their lives. Suddenly, someone shoves him, knocking him to the ground. Rin reacts, asking the man with spiked boots what he thinks he's doing. The man replies that it's him who should be asking, accusing Desmond of fooling around and flirting inside a dungeon, reminding him this isn't a game and they need to stop wasting time. A boy speaks up loudly, saying this is why he hates groups formed by connections. Rin immediately retorts that it isn't true, demanding who he thinks he is to call them that. The boy insists, saying he didn't say cat but connection, and claims it's obvious they cheated. To him, they were only chosen because of influence, and lives can't be entrusted to people like them. They should leave. Desmond tries to calm everyone, but Rin, irritated by the noise, shouts that she'll prove what they're capable of. She says instead of listening to rumors, they should witness their skills. The boy, enraged, challenges her to go ahead, and the crowd begins shouting to expel Group 55. The enchanter insists they stop, asking if they aren't allies and reminding them all need to cooperate. But the others mock him, saying he has no allies and deserves to lose his life. Rin, confident, charges forward, but Desmond asks her to wait. Others approach him, mocking, asking if he's trying to protect his comrades and saying that almost brings them to tears. He tries to answer but takes a punch straight to the face. Even injured, he insists they did nothing wrong. The attackers retort that everyone who messes up says the same and keep beating him down hard. Rin lunges at one of the boys trying to land a kick, but he blocks easily. When she pulls her leg back, she realizes the strike had no effect, retreating in pain and murmuring that he's like an iron wall. The boy confirms he isn't using any defense at all. The crowd starts chanting that Group 55 is weak and that it all comes down to connections. Soon, they all charge together. Dorothy is shoved to the ground and several rush at Garan to bring him down. Desmond, still fallen, forces himself to raise his hand, trying to quickly cast an enchantment. The mage screams for them to stop, that this isn't the time for fighting. But the others mock her, saying regret changes nothing now, that they won't forgive them. Dorothy, terrified, shouts that that's not it. The floor they're on is probably a trap and their brawl triggered it. A roar echoes, and numerous adventurers plummet into a field of ice spikes. Screams resound as others remain clinging at the edge. Those who fall despair at the sight of the ground covered in frozen spears. However, before they crash, a light envelops their bodies. Surprised, they realize they are unharmed without a single injury. They cry in relief, confirming they're safe. One companion comments in shock, then notices it's Desmond who maintained the enchantment, even while wounded. Everyone stares in disbelief. The enchanter, sweating and hurt, explains he managed just in time. He cast body enhancement on everyone, but warns it won't last forever and they need to find a way out quickly, as there could be more traps. The leader orders ropes to be thrown to pull the fallen back up. One by one, they are rescued, and at the end, he confirms everyone is safe. They answer positively, and the retreat is completed. Exhausted, Desmond drops to his knees, drained by the effort. One of the blondes comments that even while being punched, he was trying to cast strengthening spells. He realizes he wasn't just support, he noticed the trap before anyone else, and even while being beaten, prioritized protecting everyone. The others recall his earlier words, asking if they weren't all comrades, and the mood shifts. His group hands him potions. Desmond, surprised, thanks them, apologizing for having used up so many items before the exploration even began. Rin interrupts, saying it isn't his fault but hers for not listening to him. The enchanter looks around and sees others offering him potions as well. The leader steps forward and apologizes, saying he now understands his abilities, and asking him, as a comrade, to accept helping them on this quest. The other groups also apologize. From a distance, a girl watches them in hiding. With a smile, she comments that this must be the group of candidates who passed the entrance exam the fastest, just like the rumors say. She observes Desmond in particular and says that there seem to be many good men there, but he is the one she wants in her own team. One of the boys calls Desmond their leader and asks what they should do, reminding him that they're still just rank D trying to clear a rank B dungeon. The enchanter agrees it's dangerous, but explains that as long as they avoid enemies and traps, destroying the dungeon's core will calm it down and only weak monsters will appear. The boy understands and suggests they search for the core to destroy it. Desmond confirms but adds that it will be a competition since they're not the only ones inside the dungeon. His partner reminds him that even if they destroy the core, other groups could still grab the best treasures first. Desmond then proposes a plan. They'll go ahead to try to destroy the core while the others handle enemies, traps, and gather treasures. If they do this, they can clear the dungeon quickly and obtain the Jewel of Wisdom. When asked if it isn't risky for just them to go, the enchanter admits it is, but he trusts in his multiplication magic and believes they can manage. He also comments that the reason so many people are involved is probably because the clan already expected everyone to split up like this. One of the long-haired ones disagrees, saying they're probably just being used and discarded, that even if they die, there will be replacements. Desmond wonders if that could be true but refuses to believe that Cynthia's clan, the Chevalier Garden, works that way. With determination, he declares that they must succeed in their mission. The group advances through the ice-covered interior. Desmond warns Rin not to follow a certain path, sensing enemies, and reminds everyone to be careful of monsters and traps. Garand comments that he's happy because maybe they'll be able to reconcile with the others. The enchanter smiles and says he feels the same. He recalls how, when they were chosen as leaders, they were accused of cheating and became targets of hatred. But now, he sees everyone as kinder than he thought. He realizes that making more friends makes him happy, and that's why he can't let the plan fail. He explains that if they don't destroy the core, sooner or later everyone will encounter enemies and be wiped out. Acknowledging that he took on a dangerous role without consulting anyone, he asks them to lend him their strength, because he doesn't want to see anyone eliminated. They smile and answer that of course they'll do it together. Rin corrects him, saying it's not about lending strength, but about fighting side by side as a group. At that moment, a voice interrupts, saying it's indeed an important role. A girl approaches with the three others. She introduces herself as Meryl, from party number 24, accompanied by Gant, Zenari, and Gin. Desmond asks what she means by accompany, and Meryl answers exactly that. Joining forces would be safer. She also praises his enchantment and admits she's taken a liking to him, even asking if he'd consider moving to her party. She suggests he send a request to switch groups. Irritated, Rin snaps back, telling her not to try to steal members and insists that he belongs to their group. Meryl glares with disdain and says she now understands why they're called the worst party, that they only pass the exam thanks to Desmond's power since the rest are weak. The group members are annoyed at the provocation, but Meryl continues, asking if it wouldn't be better to just let him go. They lower their heads in silence, but Rin clenches her fist and, looking firmly at Desmond, declares that he isn't some powerful, untouchable figure. He's just a rank D like all of them. She finishes by saying he's hers and she won't give him to anyone. Meryl scoffs, telling her not to compare herself. Even though both are rank D, she claims they're on completely different levels and calls Rin trash. The atmosphere grows heavy and everyone around feels awkward. Gant sighs and explains that it's their fault, that they met and formed the group at the entrance exam. He adds that his partner is the type who never changes her mind once she decides something, and apparently she really wants Desmond no matter what. Zenari comments that Desmond has become quite popular. Meryl immediately snaps at her to stay out of it and calls her a charmless brat. Rin gets angry and says it's not just about having big breasts or wide hips. The enchanter thinks to himself that he's giving up on this dispute, that he never planned to get involved in it, and concludes that having friends isn't always pure happiness. Meryl then provokes him, asking whose side he'll choose, but Rin cuts in, saying he won't choose anyone. Both girls sigh deeply and Desmond intervenes, saying it's not a matter of taking sides. Suddenly, a loud crash echoes. Rin, alert, asks what that sound is and rushes forward, but Desmond warns her to wait since it could be dangerous. Garand urges everyone to chase after her and Dorothy agrees. At that moment, Meryl grabs Desmond's hand and pulls him, asking if he wouldn't rather team up with stronger members instead of staying with weaklings. The enchanter looks at her and replies that it isn't true, because being weak is exactly what makes them good. Meryl is surprised by the answer, and Desmond recalls the words of the 5th Brigade's captain, feeling like he's starting to understand better. Another adventurer approaches, worried, saying the situation is bad. Desmond orders everyone to move, declaring that now both groups will work together to destroy the dungeon core. They proceed deeper into the increasingly frozen interior. Gant comments that the temperature dropped sharply upon entering that area. Zenari touches the wall and sees it instantly freeze, frightened. Gant asks why it's so cold. Rin calls him over and points ahead. A gigantic creature, it's an ice beast. Stunned, Gant asks what it is. Desmond answers that it's an ice golem, the dungeon's boss. The group watches in shock as a wolf dashes in front of the monster. The golem glares and releases a blast of ice, destroying it instantly. The pressure mounts as they watch tensely from hiding. Gant comments that the monster is incredible. Zenari insists they must run before they're noticed, but Rin interrupts, asking if the dungeon core isn't right behind it. Meryl questions why it would be there and concludes that means they have to defeat the boss to destroy the core. Zenari protests that it's impossible. Rin insists it's fine because she has her partner by her side. She claims that with one enchantment, the boss will fall in a single blow. Desmond, however, uses his appraisal ability and sees the monster's vitality is 1,350. He thinks that while his enchantment magic multiplies stats, the base is far too high. Gant asks if even with his spells he can't beat it. The enchanter admits he can't and apologizes. Rin comments that even with multiplication, their base stats are too low. Zenari looks down, saying they should be the ones apologizing for being weak, and asks what they'll do now. The core is behind the boss, so does that mean the mission failed? Desmond replies no, they can't defeat the boss, but they can block its attacks. He explains he'll use a vitality enhancement to boost everyone's defense. That way, even if the boss attacks, they can resist long enough to destroy the core. Gant recalls it was the same enchantment that protected those who fell into the ice pit. Zenari admits that was impressive, but doubts they can withstand a boss's power. Gant comments that just entering requires a lot of courage. Desmond assures them it'll be fine since he evaluated everyone's stats. But when he looks to the side, he notices Rin isn't there. She's already advanced, calling for him to cast the enhancement spell quickly. Gant yells for her to wait until the enchantment is ready. Garand also urges him to cast it fast. Watching, Meryl thinks Rin is a fool for throwing herself in like that, blindly trusting Desmond. Even recognizing the strength of his enchantment, she can't understand how someone can act with such faith while risking being taken down. The swordswoman closes in on the golem. The monster notices her. Dorothy shouts that it spotted her. Zenari presses, demanding that the enchantment be cast. Desmond tries to conjure, but something strange happens. The magic won't flow. He looks at his staff and realizes it's frozen. He yells in despair, wondering if he touched the wall, and panics, thinking of what to do, since without the staff he can't use magic. Dorothy looks to the side, terrified as the golem prepares an attack aimed at Rin. Gant shouts that this is terrible and that she won't be able to dodge. At the last moment, Meryl leaps onto Rin, pushing her down and saving her from the blow. She orders her to get up quickly because the next attack is coming. The golem, now focused on the two, launches another strike. In shock, Gant asks since when this was happening. Panicked, Zenari says they barely survived until now, that the situation is dire, and concludes the only option left is to run for their lives. The two glare at each other when a noise echoes through the place. The swordswoman comments on her leg where ice thorns are embedded and plasma flows endlessly. Meryl thinks she has failed until she feels a hand on her shoulder. It's Rin, helping her up. Meryl asks what she's doing and tells her to run, but the swordswoman insists she can't flee alone. She was saved by her and won't leave her behind. Meryl retorts that if she keeps saying that, they'll both die together. New attacks approach, but a shield appears and blocks everything. Surprised, they look to the side and see the old man. Garand states he somehow made it in time and warns there won't be another chance. They must hurry. At that moment, the redhead falls to the ground. Meryl asks what they should do about him, but Rin answers that the next enemy is already coming. Fear takes over until flames appear, melting the icy strike. They turn and see the mage, who asks if they're okay and explains she neutralized the attack with a level 3 spell. Meryl questions if that girl could really cast something so powerful, and Dorothy confirms, but says she won't be able to use it again. Meryl demands to know what kind of enemies they're facing. Gant orders them to move quickly, and Zenari adds that there are still more people to rescue. The protagonist, shaken, looks around in despair, asking himself over and over what they should do. He thinks it's all his fault, for insisting the plan go forward, for being arrogant and believing things would be fine thanks to his magical multiplication enhancement. He convinces himself that everyone will die because of him, that he's useless. Heavy thoughts pile up, harsh words from his former group echoing in his mind. Desmond thinks Adele and the others were right. He can't do anything, he's incompetent, just a burden. His mind fills with self-deprecation until someone touches his shoulder. It's Zenari, calling him useless. The enchanter is shocked by the accusation and apologizes, but Zenari asks if that's really what he thinks of himself. Coldly, he says he drank during the mission and could kill him now since he's the only one not helping. The protagonist reacts, saying that's not true. Zenari explains he's a healer, a doctor, and that role is just a front for the mission. His real purpose is drinking to raise his body temperature. He pours alcohol over the frozen staff. Desmond panics, thinking he's spilling drink on the allies, but then recalls alcohol doesn't freeze easily. The body heat combined with the liquid warms the ice. The system notifies that alcohol doesn't freeze at 0 degrees, and, depending on its concentration, its freezing point is even lower. The substance can even serve to melt ice, as effective as warm water when combined with body heat. Surprised, the enchanter watches the smoke dissipate until the ice breaks apart. Around them, everyone is wounded. Exhausted, Gant admits this really seems like the end. Rin observes there's no limit to how much they can dodge. Meryl suggests that since he's a man, he should carry everyone and run. But Gant snaps back, saying that's ridiculous, thinking he'd rather be carried himself, knowing it's impossible anyway. Then the monster fires new attacks, deafening sounds echo. But Rin and the others aren't hit because the protagonist finally manages to activate his enhancement ability and protects them. Shocked that they're still alive, everyone asks what happened until they notice it's Desmond shielding them. The enchanter apologizes for being late, and a voice says they survived thanks to him. Everyone shouts his name in unison. Desmond continues channeling magic through his staff, stares at the monster, and asks if they're ready because the attack is about to begin. He also casts enhancements for strength, agility, mana recovery, mental resistance, and reinforced healing. The monster launches more strikes, but they dodge. Meryl gets excited, and Rin too, saying now it feels like just a breeze. The enchanter warns they can't defeat the boss directly since the true target is the dungeon's core behind it. If they destroy the core, they'll win. The swordswoman dashes forward, saying she understands and that this is the end. The monster notices her, and the mage warns her to be careful. Rin reacts in time and evades the strike. Dorothy asks if she's okay, and the swordswoman replies it was close. Meryl points to the side where the core appears, half buried. Zenary observes the monster is trying to hide it and warns that if it disappears, nothing can be done. Gant asks what they'll do. The protagonist says they'll use a distraction tactic. Everyone draws the boss's attention while one of them destroys the core. Garand says he understands. Rin declares she'll be the one to strike. She's the fastest there, nearly out of sight, and they only have one chance to aim at the core. Desmond orders them to go all out. The golem looks back and tries to strike, but they dodge. A sound echoes and the enchanter signals for his partner to go now. Rin charges. Gant prays she makes it in time and the others all try to distract the monster. The protagonist thinks the entire group's lives depend on that strike. The swordswoman nears the core, stops, raises her sword, and strikes the spot. She says she did it, but realizes an ice stone blocked it. Everyone asks if it's blocked and say the boss defends the core while fighting them. Desmond watches and thinks they're screwed. That was the only chance. They say it's over. The enchanter believes it's finished, but Gant, confident, shouts not to give up. Everyone looks surprised as Gant draws a bow. He takes aim and says even if one person fails, there's always a substitute. The protagonist remembers the captain saying substitution is true. Gant reveals he's an archer and releases the arrow. The monster notices. The arrow flies toward the core. Zenary complains it's no good, that it'll be blocked. Meryl says it won't reach. The mage swears she won't let it fail and summons a fire sphere, launching it. The arrow keeps going, closes in on the core. Everyone watches intently. A light bursts and the core shatters into pieces. Everyone is stunned they destroyed it. The monster feels something strange. The wind intensifies. A thunderous sound echoes, and the temperature drops. Ahead, they see the golem frozen and motionless. Zenary announces they destroyed the dungeon's core and the monster will be neutralized. Everyone watches in surprise and celebrates the success of the operation. Gant and Zenary praise Desmond, saying he's amazing. Rin hugs him and says she always expected this from him. The enchanter tells her to wait. It wasn't just his power, it was because everyone was there. Then the protagonist notices a shining light. Meryl asks if it's the Jewel of Wisdom. Gant wonders if that's the jewel they were after. Rin confirms it was there all along. Desmond celebrates. The task is complete. Gant announces they conquered a rank B dungeon. Someone picks up the stone and says they obtained the treasure. Meryl licks the stone and teases, saying if the enchanter wants it, he'll have to join her party. The swordswoman asks if she still hasn't given up. Meryl replies of course not. If she wants something, she wants it for herself, especially now. Gant asks her to give it back. Zenary reminds her the treasure belongs to everyone, the result of a joint effort. Gin asks to see the treasure too. Meryl refuses, saying it's her way of forcing him to join and won't hand it over until he agrees. Quiet in a corner and irritated, Gin demands they give it to him right now. With a swift strike, he slashes his two partners. The protagonist and others are stunned. The two collapse. Desmond is paralyzed. Gin moves fast and strikes him as well. The enchanter screams in pain and collapses. Rin reacts in anger. Gant demands to know what he's doing if he's insane. Gin takes the stone and declares he's perfectly sane. That stone was always his goal from the start. If possible, he would have settled it peacefully, but that woman refused to hand it over. Gant protests. Gin snaps back that they're not friends, that there are organizations that exploit others. Gant recalls his earlier words. Gin releases a terrifying aura and reveals he belongs to the criminal organization known as Black Weapon. Everyone is shocked. Gin admits he only infiltrated the Chevalier Garden for his own ends, that he isn't anyone's friend there. Gant grits his teeth, draws his bow and aims. Gin slices the arrow in half, saying he knows his strength, and that without that boy, they're just weak rank Ds. The enhancement spell is already gone, and he himself isn't rank C. He's far above that. Now that his true identity is revealed, he'll wipe them all out. Jin charges. Gant growls and orders them to run because at this rate, they'll all be slaughtered. Gant grabs Desmond and says he'll carry him, ordering the others to hurry and run. Gin approaches, declaring he won't allow them to escape. He strikes, but the blade doesn't even scratch. Surprised, he pulls back in confusion and everyone else is baffled as well. Gin wonders why his attacks had no effect since those guys shouldn't have such high defense. At that moment, the protagonist awakens and the allies ask if he's alright. Gin realizes the reason is him. Maybe when he fell, the staff activated some spell. He admits he made a mistake by hesitating to eliminate him earlier, thinking he might still be useful, and acknowledges he should have defeated him first. With disdain, Gin declares he's already achieved what he wanted and will withdraw for now. Laughing, he says that thanks to them, everything was easy. Idiots who can't accomplish anything without unity are easy to manipulate. Even so, allies can be convenient. Desmond, in silence, reflects that he finally understands the brigade's lesson. Even people ranked like them gave their all to work together. But now, everything is in ruins. The precious jewel was stolen and the plan failed. Then a voice cuts through the air, calling him an idiot. Everyone turns, surprised. Meryl coughs blood and, between laughs, challenges Gin. She tells him not to underestimate them, that their bond was never superficial, and asks if he even remembers her class. She reminds them she said she was a thief, reveals the stone in her hand, and declares she won't hand over the treasure earned by her comrades to someone like him. The enchanter and the others are stunned. Meryl laughs and collapses to the ground while her companions rush to heal her. Gin smiles, laughing, admitting he truly underestimated her. He calls them rank D trash, but acknowledges that this time he lost. He promises that next time he'll eliminate every one of them. With a cold look, he says that they, the Black Armpits, are everywhere, and warns Desmond to beware of his so-called precious friends, as they may not be so trustworthy. Then he vanishes. Still at the scene, the support team approaches as the group returns. The first mission with the Chevalier Garden is completed. Zenery and Meryl are unconscious, carried on stretchers. Despite the injuries, the mission is declared successful. With the stone in hand, the protagonist reflects that this incident taught him the value of comrades, the strength of unity, and the inevitability of enemies. He understands at last that being part of the Chevalier Garden also means being a constant target of powerful adversaries. Elsewhere, Rin greets the others, Dorothy responds with a smile, and Garand asks about her body. The swordswoman assures it wasn't serious, thanks to Desmond, who prevented worse injuries. The redhead asks about him, and the mage explains he's with the commander, summoned for another mission. They noticed he seemed thoughtful after what happened and wonder if he'll be okay. In the commander's office, the captain of the 5th Brigade congratulates him. The outcome exceeded expectations, and naming him leader was the right choice. Desmond thanks him quietly. Brant, drinking, notes that he looks down. He points out that completing a rank B mission is the brigade's greatest achievement, and there's no reason to be saddened. He boasts, reminding him it all happened because he used the supreme magic of multiplication. Desmond counters that the success wasn't his alone. It was only possible because everyone was there, even if there were sacrifices. He clenches his fist in anguish. The captain asks if he means those two. He assures him they're alive, though gravely wounded. He reinforces that the Chevalier Garden's medical team is elite, and with time, they'll recover, including the injured arm. The protagonist, however, says that if he were stronger, maybe he could have prevented it. Brant rebuts, saying he did more than enough, and reminds him that he wanted him to understand the meaning of belonging to the Chevalier Garden. Now he already comprehends comradeship, danger, and determination. Desmond admits that for this very reason, he fears repeating the experience and seeing his precious friends get hurt again. The captain smiles, while the enchanter leaves the room and walks down the hall. Inside, the secretary observes and comments that he'll be fine. He's clearly promising, but maybe leadership came too soon. Brant comments that the boy seems like he's never had real comrades, carries too much on his shoulders, and at this rate will break. But now he can't hear anything. Well, that too is experience. A test. The secretary takes the drink from his hand. Elsewhere, the protagonist walks, lost in thought, asking himself what he should do. He promises never again to let his comrades go through something like that. This time they were saved, but just imagining someone dying makes him remember Gin's words, that next time he'd kill them all, and a chill runs through his chest. He decides he won't lose his friends no matter what and that he needs to do more. Suddenly, he notices something ahead and wonders where he is, for it looks like a hall he had never seen inside the Chevalier Garden. A voice calls him, welcoming him, and revealing it lured him there. Alarmed, Desmond asks who it is. A red light moves. He dodges narrowly and falls to the floor, not understanding what's happening. When he looks up, he sees a girl. She recognizes him, says she's heard of him and his interesting enchantment magic, and claims it's a pleasure to meet him. A sound resonates, and the protagonist grows even more alert. He doesn't know who this woman is, only that she feels extremely dangerous. The system notifies that the appraisal ability was activated. Desmond panics. He's never seen numbers so high, stats at monster level. He wonders if she's rank S. The girl replies with a cold smile. She's a black armpit and came to eliminate him. The enchanter freezes in fear. That enemy organization is targeting the Chevalier Garden's members, and he realizes he's been clearly marked for death. He never expected them to come so soon, nor to infiltrate so easily. A rank S before him. If he doesn't act, everyone will be in danger. He must stop her here. The woman reads his expression and says it's useless. Even if weaklings like them come up with strategies, they'll never defeat someone this strong. Desmond is struck head-on, spits blood, and falls. When he tries to get up, the villainess asks what he'll do now, saying no matter how strong his enhancement magic is, he has no one to use it on. He wonders what the right choice is. If he doesn't act quickly, he'll die there. Flames appear, smoke spreads, and then Desmond stands, using his own enchantment magic on himself. The black armpit smiles, saying she understands. He enhanced himself, but asks what difference it makes, since he still can't win. The protagonist admits in thought that it's true. Even multiplying his power, he can't come close to her stats. His defense and attack are insufficient. There's nothing he can do, but he must try. She calls him a fool and declares him disqualified. An immense magic is unleashed, and Desmond stares in fear. The villainess announces this is the end, attacks, and orders him to fall gloriously. The enchanter realizes he truly can't stop her and wonders if he'll die here. His eyes widen, and in that instant, he remembers Cynthia. Suddenly, Dorothy appears, calling the black armpit master and asking what she's doing there. Desmond is confused upon hearing the word master. As the attack closes in, a brilliant light explodes, petals fall to the floor. The enchanter can barely react. The villainess praises, saying it's just as expected of her. A beautiful magic. He demands to know who she is. The black armpit replies, she is Nolan, Master Rafim, Dorothy's adoptive father and magic teacher, belonging to the 1st Brigade, just like Cynthia. The protagonist, shocked, thinks of the Chevalier Garden, the prestigious clan founded by Viscount Leduc, and cries out in surprise. In an instant, they're all teleported to another space. Desmond is astonished, recognizing that this environment was created by magic. Dorothy faces her master and asks why she tried to eliminate her partner. Nolan answers casually that she didn't try to kill him, only guide him, though perhaps a bit harshly. Confused, Desmond asks about this guidance. Master Rafim explains she heard about him from Cynthia, a charming, promising, talented person. She knew of his results in the recruitment exam, and that since he was in the same group, Dorothy wanted to meet him. But when she actually found him, he was already caught in the middle of trouble. Desmond asks what she means, and Nolan turns the question back, asking why he tried to fight her earlier. The enchanter has no answer, and Master Rafim states that he should have known he had no chance of winning, and yet, instead of running, he stood there recklessly. To her, he isn't just foolish, he's a complete idiot. The protagonist questions the idea of fleeing, explaining that if he had run, everyone else might have lost their lives. Nolan counters that in the end, he would have been eliminated first and his companions would have died anyway. He should have fled and called for help. Surprised, Desmond listens as Master Rafim clarifies she doesn't mean begging adventurers of rank D or C. Within the Chevalier Garden, there are superiors, the commander, Cynthia, herself, and other rank S individuals. He stays silent, absorbing every word, and Nolan continues. He's shouldering too much responsibility, probably believing the wounds from the mission are his fault, thinking he must protect everyone alone. But if he fights in isolation, he won't be able to protect anything. Then she asks why he doesn't trust the others. The protagonist is deeply struck. Dorothy holds his hand and agrees with the master. He doesn't need to bear everything by himself. If he believes he must take responsibility for the mission, then everyone should share that weight. If he had more MP, they could have pursued a better plan, but that doesn't change the fact that he cares for everyone, and everyone cares for him too. It's a lonely feeling when he refuses to rely on others. Desmond looks at her emotionally, his eyes brimming. He thinks he still doesn't understand the true meaning of forming a party, of belonging to the Chevalier Garden. He calls himself an idiot, since he has so many people he can trust, and there's nothing wrong with depending on them. When he admits that to himself, he feels ashamed but can't hold back his tears. At the same time, his heart becomes lighter. Master Rafim smiles, reflecting that this is his youth. She recalls that Cynthia had said he would be someone to carry the clan's future, and now she understands why there was such curiosity about him. He's still inexperienced, but not in a bad way. And beyond that, Cynthia seems to harbor feelings that go beyond childhood friendship. Nolan wonders how she'll react, since she admitted that Desmond is the kind of man she likes. Suddenly, McDonald enters the room. Nolan shows some unease at her arrival, while Desmond is still clinging to Dorothy. Cynthia sees the scene and is moved when she notices he's crying. At the same time, she grows furious, asking herself if he's crying in that woman's arms. Master Rafim, uncertain, thinks maybe she didn't manage to save him completely. The protagonist, embarrassed, apologizes. Dorothy answers that it's fine, that she's happy when he trusts them. Desmond thinks in shame about having cried so much, especially in Dorothy's embrace. Noticing her body, he blushes even more, thinking maybe he got a little lucky. Cynthia, enraged, demands to know what's going on and if he was really crying in that woman's arms. The enchanter hesitates to answer, which infuriates her even more. She thinks that if it was something that made him cry, she wanted him to tell her and cry in her arms. Nolan cuts through the tension, saying that if Cynthia has something to say, she should speak it aloud, otherwise no one will understand. The mood turns heavy. Meanwhile, in the labyrinth of the Association, the organization responsible for managing dungeons and adventurers, someone punches the wall in anger. It's Adele. Marina urges him to calm down. The warrior snaps, demanding how he can stay calm in a situation like this, since they were demoted from rank B to rank C. The redhead explains it couldn't be helped. Kurozo reminds them they've been working dungeon expeditions without rest. Around them, other adventurers mock them. They say they failed so many times that they were banned from rank B dungeons, and it's hilarious. They add they might even be dropped to rank D, mocking how they once proclaimed themselves rising stars. They ridicule them further, saying they should be ashamed to show their faces, humiliated enough to be finished off by shame. The team listens, and Marina confirms they're the ones being talked about. Kurozo adds that because of Adele's arrogance until now, many people hate them. Adele explodes, shouting for them not to mess with him and calling them weak, which only sparks more jeers. They want to know who he thinks he's talking to. The warrior grabs a boy's shirt, but the redhead steps in and begs him to stop, reminding him that starting a fight will only make things worse. The boy, unfazed, asks what that means, if he's really trying to hit him, because he didn't feel any strength at all. He mocks them, questioning if they were ever really strong, and provokes them by saying that if they actually fight, they'll lose easily. Marina insists they let it go, while the people around laugh. Some comment that, according to rumor, their old enchanter was truly amazing. Adele's eyes widen in irritation. The comments continue. They mention an enchanter who once was part of the Swords group, and that their downfall began after that guy left. Recently, they heard rumors that a powerful enchanter joined the Chevalier Garden, and that he sounds a lot like the one who used to be with them. Consumed by rage, Adele storms off with his group. Outside, Kurozo asks what they'll do next. Marina replies they don't have many options. They don't even have money to hire another enchanter, and the team's gear is falling apart. Even when they try to earn money, they fail in dungeons, piling up more debt. At this pace, bankruptcy is inevitable. The blonde adds that if they fail again, they could even have their identification cards confiscated. Marina concludes that this is practically the end. Adele bites his fingers in frustration. Kurozo recalls the rumor and admits it's true. Everything started going wrong after Desmond left. Marina agrees, saying that since then, nothing good has happened. Aside from constant failures, even their bodies feel heavy, like their luck ran out. Adele then bursts out, saying he gets it. It's him, Desmond. His partners don't understand, but the warrior shouts that it's all that bastard's fault. He says Desmond must have cursed them, and that's why they're in this state. He vows to make him beg for forgiveness and then feed him to the monsters. Marina tries to calm him, asking if he really believes that. A voice suddenly remarks that it's a pity. They all look and see Gin approaching. He says he knows Desmond, that he went with him on a dungeon quest, and assures them he's the worst enchanter he's ever seen. He even adds that Desmond himself badmouthed the sword. Marina asks who he is. Gin replies that doesn't matter, he just wants to help. Kurozo asks if he's serious about helping, and he confirms. He wants to help them get revenge on Desmond and has a good method in mind. Meanwhile, in Bristol, inside the Great Library, people browse for books. Desmond is seated, immersed in study, reflecting on how deep enchantment magic really is. He thinks that, although he's behind, he now researches tirelessly about the uses of magic and the great enchanters of the past. He admits that before he only relied on the singularity of multiplication, blindly. What impresses him most is discovering the method of enchantment layering, repeatedly applying the same enhancement spell. Once gives plus 20, twice plus 40, and with multiplication the value reaches astonishing levels. Until now he only depended on raw multiplication, never imagining he could reuse and stack spells. He's shocked to learn it's a technique forbidden by law. While he studies, someone calls him. Desmond looks up and is startled to see Cynthia, who whispers, asking if he's studying. Nervous, he makes a noise, drawing annoyed stares. Quietly, he asks what happened. McDonald explains that she finished her mission, had some free time, and upon hearing he was at the library, came to check. She praises him for studying, calling it admirable. Desmond feels embarrassed, thinking she has a pleasant fragrance. Cynthia smiles, and he blushes even more, noticing how close she came. He thinks libraries are amazing places. Watching her, he reflects that she's exactly as he imagined. Beautiful, kind, strong. Naturally, she's popular. Then a gust of wind blows off her hood. People recognize her immediately and start approaching. Cynthia mutters that this is bad and urges him to leave quickly. Desmond agrees. The librarian scolds them, telling them to be quiet, but the curious can't help commenting that it's really her. the commander of the 1st Brigade, the legendary Ice Plasma Princess. The enchanter, confused, asks what that means. Cynthia, flustered, pulls him along and says, "It's nothing." The crowd, curious, asks who the boy next to Cynthia is and if he's her lover. The protagonist immediately denies it, but Cynthia simply keeps pulling him firmly, hurrying out of the place. Desmond worries that this might spark strange rumors that could damage her reputation, and wonders if that could make her start disliking him. McDonald grabs his arm again. Embarrassed, he looks at her hand and without thinking holds it back. Cynthia smiles at that, making him blush even more. Elsewhere, Cynthia apologizes, saying she only wanted to see him for a while but ended up interrupting his studies. Desmond replies that it's fine, he doesn't mind, and can always return to the library later. In truth, he's happy to spend time with her. Cynthia calls his name and he mentions her title, Ice Plasma Princess. Embarrassed, McDonald explains that rank S adventurers end up getting nicknames before they even realize it. The enchanter finds it interesting and recalls Nolan, the Crimson Madness. Cynthia admits that when she starts fighting, her destructive impulses intensify, which is why she's also called the Plasma Demon. Desmond thinks that even when she held back against him, she was already impressive and imagines that the nickname with Ice and Princess might come from her beauty. Cynthia smiles, and he, captivated, thinks he'd like to see her fight for real one day. Suddenly, Rin appears, calling him urgently. Desmond asks what happened, and the swordswoman replies that it's serious. Dorothy has been kidnapped. Later, elsewhere, the protagonist questions what it means that the mage was kidnapped. Nolan explains she had sent her to run some errands, but even after nightfall, she didn't return. She tried searching, but found no traces, not even with magic, which can only mean someone is concealing her presence. Desmond panics, asking what kind of trouble she got into. Just then, someone arrives and reports that the city's mercenary group captured 2 suspects that night. They shouted that if they wanted to know where Dorothy was, they'd need to bring Desmond. Shocked, the enchanter asks why her abduction would have anything to do with him. The knight responds he doesn't know for sure, but the 2 captives were members of the Sword. Later, in another part of the city, Desmond arrives furious, demanding to know what's going on. In front of him stand Marina and Kurozo. The redhead says they finally meet and asks if he doesn't realize that since he left the clan, everything began to go wrong. Even Adele changed, becoming stranger. The blonde adds that a suspicious man approached them offering revenge against Desmond, calling himself Gin or something like that. Marina confirms he suggested kidnapping someone close to Desmond to lure him, and mentioned Dorothy for being the quietest of the group. They tried to stop Adele, but he wouldn't listen. They were expelled just as messengers and brought the message. If they want the girl back, they must go to Crystal Hollows, without taking anyone rank S from the Chevalier Garden. If they bring extra help, Dorothy will be killed immediately. Time is limited. Desmond stares silently. At dusk, in a cave, Adele and Gin hold Dorothy hostage. She screams for her friends, who call back to her. Rin asks if she's all right. The protagonist glares at Adele and calls his name. The warrior, grinding his teeth, orders him not to speak so familiarly and reminds him he said not to bring anyone extra. He demands to know who the others are. Gin scoffs, saying he doesn't care since they're just weaklings and he could wipe them out easily. Desmond, irritated, asks what the hell Gin is planning and says if he has a problem, he should say it directly to him. Adele, consumed by rage, shouts for him to shut up, accusing him of acting all high and mighty. He says their group's reputation was destroyed by the curse Desmond cast on them. Everything they built was lost because of him, and he demands to know how he'll repay them. The enchanter, stunned, asks what curse they're talking about, insisting he never did such a thing. Jin, with a cold smile, comments that everything fell apart. Desmond ruined them, was expelled, and now bears a grudge, casting curses. He calls it pathetic and says Adele has every right to take revenge. Rin, furious, asks who the hell he is and demands that he release Dorothy immediately or disappear. Garand agrees, accusing him of underestimating them too much. With Desmond's enchantment, defeating him is completely possible. Gin smirks and reveals that the Black Arm group has a wide range of activities. They plunder and steal treasures, run research institutions, and conduct studies on humans, magic, monsters, and items, diving into every kind of experiment. Without hesitation, he thrusts a syringe into Adele's neck. Everyone below watches in shock. The warrior, confused, asks what he's doing. Gin laughs and explains that was why he dragged Adele there, to use him as a test subject. Adele's head and arms start grotesquely deforming, and Gin says he has better things to do than deal with them. With a cruel smile, he adds, he doesn't even need to fight personally, he'll just leave them to die. Dorothy screams in despair. Gin, still smiling, threatens he could just kill them if he wanted. Adele's body starts releasing plasma, his form distorting, and he screams in pain. Desmond watches in silence until he hears the warrior begging for help. The enchanter calls Adele's name when a blinding light explodes, reflecting off his face. Opening his eyes, he is shocked to see before him the tail of a colossal, terrifying monster. Stunned, he asks if that's a monster. Rin, equally shocked, screams, trying to understand what's happening. Trembling, Desmond tells everyone to run. A deafening crash follows, rocks collapse and form a pile of rubble. The protagonist barely escapes, but looking to the side sees Rin and Garan trapped beneath the stones, asking frantically if they're all right. The monster keeps roaring, and Desmond tries to grasp what he saw. He thinks that in the place where Adele stood, that creature appeared, and wonders if it was human, or an experiment. He activates his appraisal eye and the system confirms. The monster's name is Adele, race human Hydra. Desmond can hardly believe it. A human transformed into a monster. He considers it diabolical, and worse, the creature's stats are terrifying, strength at rank A+. Even with enchantment magic, there's no chance to win. Dorothy coughs and he asks if she's all right. The mage replies yes, that the impact cut the ropes and she managed to break free. She's almost struck by the monster, but Desmond protects her, dodging the blow that shatters the stone above. He realizes if he had been hit, he would have been ripped apart. Rin screams, asking if he's okay and what they should do. The exit is blocked. There's no way out. They must defeat the monster. The swordswoman offers to act as a decoy since Desmond can enhance himself, but he refuses. Even with reinforcements, his stats aren't enough. They can't beat the Hydra. They can't beat Adele. The swordswoman insists, asking what they'll do then. The enchanter lowers his head and answers there's only one way. Everyone stares at him. He explains, layered enchantment technique. Rin asks what that is. Dorothy, alarmed, interrupts, saying it's forbidden. Desmond confirms a taboo, the most forbidden of all, but the only option left. The swordswoman asks if it means casting the same spell multiple times. The mage confirms, normally physical enhancement gives +20, but repeating it 2 or 3 times can stack to absurd values. Rin gets excited, saying that's amazing, that he could become the strongest in the world. But Desmond clarifies, he won't cast it on anyone else, only on himself. Rin asks why. Dorothy explains the reason. The side effects. Horrified, the swordswoman hears that the target of such a spell could have their body destroyed by the strain, left bedridden or even dead. That's why it's forbidden. She begs him to stop. Desmond gestures with his hand for silence. He says Adele was his former companion, a fool with whom things ended badly, but he understands that for Adele it must have felt the same. He admits that Adele being like this could be his fault. It's something he must face. Dorothy calls out to him, but he steps toward the monster and stands before it. He asks if Adele remembers when he said he was being exiled. He says he thought Adele was terrible, that he never wanted to hear his side and treated him like trash. But since leaving the group and forming a new one, he finally understood what it means to have true comrades. Today he knows he should have talked more, instead of just resenting. If necessary, he should have punched him to get his point across. He admits he abandoned his old companions as much as they abandoned him. But now he understands he must protect what he couldn't before, and he will do so now. The monster, enraged, unleashes a wave of power against him. Desmond activates his magic. A massive explosion echoes, smoke spreads, and the system records the enchantment. Strength, vitality, agility, and resistance increased in successive layers. System notifications keep popping up, activating double-layer duplication and boosting strength, vitality, agility, and endurance, until reaching triple-layer mode. The numbers climb to staggering heights, and the protagonist feels his body overflowing with power, wrapped in a terrifying energy. He shouts for them to press the attack. The creature opens its massive jaws, unleashing a deafening roar, staring at him with pure killing intent. Desmond, plasma sparking in his eyes, stares back without hesitation. The beast charges to swallow him whole while the companions watch in distress. The enchantment mage raises his hand, forcing the Hydra's jaw from closing, using all his strength to hold it back. At the same time, the protagonist strikes, breaking one of the beast's fangs and forcing it to retreat. Desmond then leaps onto the enemy, cloaked in energy, clenches his fist, and delivers a devastating blow that makes the Hydra spit out plasma. Rin, shocked, asks if he really just punched the creature. The beast unleashes its power, but the enchantment mage manages to block. Soon after, the Hydra tries to slash him with razor-sharp claws, but the protagonist intercepts and counterattacks, pressing his hand against the monster's body and releasing his energy. The creature lets out a thunderous scream as the group looks on in shock, while Desmond keeps pressing forward until he hurls the beast's colossal body away. The enchantment mage gasps, and Garand, incredulous, asks if he really threw that massive bulk. Rin remarks that the Hydra can't handle such pressure. The assault is overwhelming. The monster raises its head and lets out a piercing sound as its body begins to writhe. The swordswoman warns it's getting dangerous, and the mage identifies it. A tail, the Hydra's most powerful ability. The creature swings its tail, causing massive destruction and a devastating shockwave all around. The beast glares in fury, but the The protagonist, unscathed, advances, clenches his fist, and smashes the Hydra's eye with all his might. A scream of agony echoes as the monstrous body collapses to the ground, lifeless. Everyone stares in disbelief, including Desmond. Rin asks if it was really him who did it. Suddenly, a blinding light explodes, reflecting on their faces, followed by a boom. The creature's hands begin to melt until slowly revealing Adele's human body. The swordswoman asks if he's back to normal. The enchantment mage approaches and calls his name while Rin celebrates, saying they won. It was amazing. A complete victory. The protagonist laughs, but his gaze turns strange, his hands and feet tingling from the activated layers. His companions show concern, and then Desmond lets out a scream of pain. The system notifies inflammation, facial pain, ligament rupture, crushed fractures, abdominal hemorrhage, and spinal cord injury. A light engulfs the enchantment mage, who remains paralyzed, staring into emptiness until collapsing to the ground. His friends rush to him, begging him to hold on and asking if he'll be all right. The protagonist lies still, powerless, racked with excruciating pain, his body slowly falling apart. Meanwhile, Adele's body begins to move. Everyone turns immediately. Adele yells for them not to touch him, accuses them of doing it on purpose, betraying and trying to kill their own companion, asking if it felt good to beat him senseless. Garand calls him the worst adventurer. Adele, mocking, tells them to finish him off already and insults, calling him a useless human. At that moment, a firm voice rises, saying enough. Adele freezes, and everyone looks in shock. It's Dorothy. She confronts him, asking how he can say such cruel things and how he doesn't realize what his partner feels. She explains Desmond could have used enchantment but chose not to. Adele looks confused and asks what she means. The mage clarifies that the enchantment layer is a forbidden spell that would inevitably destroy the caster's body, and that he could have hidden, casting spells until he defeated him without exposing himself, but instead chose to fight head-on, sacrificing himself. To her, it was a conscious decision to help as a comrade. She emphasizes that someone like Desmond would never hold a grudge or curse an ally. Instead, he was betrayed and cast aside despite being a valuable companion. Adele stays silent, and Dorothy concludes by asking him not to make his partner suffer anymore. While the protagonist remains on the ground, unable to rise, only listening to the voices around, someone approaches. It's Gin, mocking that it's all meaningless, asking if this is just a melodramatic act to draw tears. He states that if the effects of the medicine can fade so easily, then they're incomplete. Rin's eyes widen, while Gin sneers and decides to wipe them out, declaring that weaklings like them aren't even worth the effort. A devastating attack is launched, hurling everyone to the ground. Desmond screams for his companions, but Gin advances, declaring his end, describing him as crawling, about to lose his life and be torn apart. Suddenly, a light rises with a crash. The enchantment mage shuts his eyes but senses a hand reaching out. It's Adele, who creates a protective barrier. The protagonist is stunned to see him. Adele, however, collapses right after, plasma dripping from his body. The enchantment mage, bewildered, asks why he protected him. Adele replies to close it above and explains that if they are comrades, he will save his companion, even at the cost of his own body, and expects the same in return. Desmond is moved, tears welling in his eyes, but Gin reappears and strikes Adele again, wounding him further and ordering him to stay out of the way. Gin then mocks, waving at the enchantment mage and saying he can't hear anything but the last words of a defeated man. The protagonist grits his teeth until another burst of light explodes and a firm voice echoes, declaring that he's not finished yet. A powerful attack slams into Gin, who barely understands what happened, until he notices two figures appearing, Nolan and Cynthia, who announce that from here on out, they can leave the rest to them. Jin stares and realizes they're rank S adventurers, extremely dangerous, with spells capable of erasing 5 hydras at once. Nervous, he pulls out a poison needle, threatening that if anyone moves, he'll eliminate the boy in seconds before they can react. But without even realizing, Gin is slashed clean through, plasma gushing from his body. The protagonist watches and understands, in that instant, why she earned the title, not only for being beautiful, but for being utterly breathtaking. McDonald unleashes more crushing blows, ordering him to shut up, calling him worthless scum. Jin collapses, defeated. Desmond reflects on the chill of the plasma and recognizes, before him stands the Ice Plasma Princess. Rafim approaches the body and confirms there's no recovery, asking if he left nothing for himself, then joking that childhood friends are really terrifying. Cynthia, however, scolds him, saying it's no time for jokes and asking if the partner's all right, demanding they heal him immediately and take him to Chevalier Garden. The enchantment mage thinks that, in truth, it all ended in an instant with the arrival of the two. He wonders if he's useless, apologizes mentally to his partner, realizing his injuries don't come from attacks but from the side effects of the forbidden spell. He concludes that healing won't work, he can no longer move, and his adventuring career is over. He recalls the promise to explore a rank S dungeon and realizes it will never be fulfilled. Thus, the storm of vengeance that swept them ends. In the infirmary, the protagonist is already in good condition, to the point of being fed by hand. Desmond complains, saying he can eat on his own, but Cynthia and Rin insist he shouldn't strain himself. Garand comments that the scene feels like déjà vu. Meryl arrives with her group, explaining she heard of his hospitalization from being unable to move and came to help, while a veteran adds that the situation seems worse than before. The enchantment mage asks about Zenari and Gant, and Zenari replies that both are fully healed thanks to the treatment. Gant admits surprise upon learning of the hospitalization, and comments he heard about the side effects of the forbidden technique, which left him unable to move and made treatment impossible. But he quickly adds that those effects were absorbed thanks to the commander's self-sacrifice. The protagonist corrects, saying they weren't erased but rather assumed by the commander, who sacrificed himself to save him, asking forgiveness for it. Brant steps in, saying it should be expressed as an act of love and not just duty, stressing that he must give his all for his subordinates, for that is a commander's responsibility. He adds that since he won't continue as an adventurer, it doesn't matter if he can't move. His secretary sighs, but Desmond objects, saying that's not true, as even daily life would become difficult. He recalls that he used the forbidden layering technique but was pardoned thanks to Chevalier Garden's intervention. The commander, reflecting on all the problems caused, states it's all right. He explains the superiors decided that someone as capable as the enchantment mage must stay active, far more than himself, who already considers himself nearly retired. He says that putting his body at risk for a talented and promising young man is the greatest honor a veteran like him could wish for. He adds that his condition is not necessarily incurable. There are items and hidden treasures within the dungeons they explore, and it would not be strange to find something capable of healing every physical burden. If he feels responsible, then he must work hard to discover that item. That, after all, is the true spirit of a team. The protagonist meets his gaze and responds firmly, promising he will see it through. Everyone around them is excited. Brant smiles and declares that he will assign an important mission immediately, as he already knows what to do. Elsewhere, everyone gathers, curious about the announcement. Many ask what the news is, commenting that they heard about the commander's hospitalization. The secretary appears and asks for silence, saying there is an official statement. While the 5th Brigade's commander is in recovery, Desmond will serve as acting commander. The news shocks everyone, who begin to murmur. Desmond, the enchantment mage, admits that he is still a novice and has many shortcomings, acknowledges that some may have complained about his appointment, but assures them he is prepared to risk his life and give his all for everyone. A firm voice interrupts, declaring that no one is complaining. Companions who explored alongside him affirm that they know how incredible he is, even threatening to knock out anyone who dares to question him. The protagonist is moved by their words and declares that he looks forward to working with them all. Later, in another setting, his friends celebrate. Cynthia and Nolan watch from afar, hiding, wishing they could join in. Meryl appears, blowing a kiss, while Desmond notices Adele and his team through the window. Adele waves, the enchantment mage waves back and watches him walk away. In another window, the captain rests in his bed, smiling at the scene. In front of a cave, the protagonist orders them to enter. Before casting a preparatory spell, Rin dashes ahead without waiting. As usual, Desmond grumbles that it's not time yet. A little earlier, at the place where Gin lay wounded, someone approaches. A healer remarks how resilient he is, extends her hand and releases healing magic. Gin coughs, awakens, and shouts that he won't forgive her for making a fool of him. The healer asks if he found someone useful. Clenching his fists, Gin reveals that he did. Someone who uses incredible enchantments. The woman stares at him and unleashes a strange power. Gin tries to stop her, calling her Kate, begging her to stop the recovery magic because his body can't handle it. But he can't finish the sentence. His body explodes, leaving only plasma. Kate smiles and says that Desmond truly seems interesting. In Chevalier Garden, the enchantment mage is buried in papers, complaining that the work never ends. Desmond signs, already exhausted, when the secretary appears with even more documents. He asks if they're for tomorrow, but she replies that everything must be submitted today. The mage screams and the secretary consoles him, saying that despite his lack of experience, he's doing very well. As he continues signing, Desmond looks at the bracelet on his arm and thinks that, thanks to Cynthia's intervention with the Mage Association, the crime of accumulating enhancement magic was pardoned. However, he is forced to wear the conversion bracelet, which alters the effects whenever he casts enhancement magic on a target. Now, as acting captain of the 5th Brigade, he must explore dungeons. compile reports and submit them to council meetings, as well as evaluate members in practical training and promote promising warriors to the 4th Brigade. He reflects that every day he is chased by administrative tasks he had never done before and wonders when the next combat training will be, as he longs to move his body. The Vice replies that it will be in 4 days. The protagonist thinks that after the battle against Adele, his duties have multiplied. He even participates in guild training to strengthen himself, and though still weak in intelligence, he can already fight using enhancement magic on himself. At that moment, Rin approaches and asks if he is all right. Dorothy warns that this is the captain's office and they cannot simply enter without permission, but Garand asks her not to be so tense. Desmond is happy to see them, but the swordswoman pokes him, telling him to stop and hurry to a dungeon. The Vice is annoyed, complaining that they shouldn't just do as they please. Rin shows a sheet with records and points out that the month's dungeon conquest count is insufficient, asking if even she could run into trouble. The Vice only glares back sternly. Elsewhere, the protagonist raises his staff and casts enhancement magic to strengthen his companions. Garand blocks a goblin's attack. The mage conjures spells, Rin charges into battle, and they all handle the enemies successfully. Desmond thinks that, meanwhile, group number 55 is also fulfilling their dungeon conquest quota. Everyone's assignments gradually increase, and they are already able to fight properly in several areas. Leaving the dungeon, Rin celebrates the fact that they are unharmed, and the enchantment mage remarks that the day was calm. At that moment, Cynthia appears and says he seems to be working hard as captain. Desmond is thrilled to see her, while McDonald states that his name has been spreading quite a bit. The protagonist tries to brush it off, saying it's nothing, but Cynthia insists he shouldn't be modest and should have confidence. Rin agrees, saying it's obvious. After all, he belongs to her. Soon, knights approach on horseback. McDonald bows respectfully. The swordswoman, confused, asks who that old man is. Dorothy scolds her and reveals that he is none other than the founder of Chevalier Garden, Viscount Rudark. Rin adds that he is the most important person there. The founder asks about the mission's progress, and Cynthia responds that they are still searching diligently. The Viscount tells her to trust herself, then notices Desmond, stating that he is the new captain of the 5th Brigade and that he has expectations. Desmond confirms seriously, and soon the group moves on with their horses. Curious, the protagonist asks what it's about, and McDonald explains, it concerns the S-rank dungeon of Bristol, called Grand Naval, the Great Naval. In the labyrinth city of Bristol, known for hosting the world's only S-class dungeon, various guilds compete for conquests. Rumors say unimaginable treasures lie within its depths, and whoever conquers it first will have their name eternalized in history. To this day, no one has managed to open the colossal door guarding the entrance. Desmond questions if it's truly right for him to attend the meeting, but the Vice assures him that it is, reminding him he is the captain of the 5th Brigade, even if only temporarily. The great door opens and the captains are already seated, waiting. The enchantment mage feels uneasy, but Cynthia introduces him to everyone. Desmond, acting captain of the 5th Brigade. Beside him is the captain of the 3rd Brigade, Veronica Iris. Ahead, the captain of the 4th Brigade, Herman Valentina. McDonald adds that only one person is absent, the 2nd captain, Zex Valerius. The protagonist feels out of place, recalling that brigade captains have power equivalent to 1st Brigade members. Despite having taken the post in Brant's place, it is still intimidating to sit in the captain's council. At that moment, the founder enters and declares the session open. Rudark looks at Desmond, and he struggles to remain composed, while the Vice asks permission to assist the acting captain. The Viscount takes his seat and announces they will begin with brigade reports. The enchantment mage thinks that this is the Chevalier's highest decision-making body, composed of the 5 captains and the owner, held monthly to devise strategies for conquering the S-rank dungeon. The deliberations here turn into concrete plans for each brigade, and there is an obligation to present detailed reports on recent confinements and finances. With a paper in hand, Desmond reports that the 5th Brigade is following the general plan. The founder praises the work but soon asks if they have discovered how to open the Great Naval's door. Cynthia answers that there has been no progress, which angers Rudark. He lashes out, saying they achieved nothing after an entire month, questioning if they have motivation, and reminding them how much of his private fortune he has already invested into that clan. Veronica, the captain of the 3rd Brigade, intervenes, whispering to Desmond not to be intimidated, explaining that the Viscount is always like that. She also whispers that Rudark has been impatient with many matters, being a noble in service of Lord Bristol and also commander of the city guard, but that he has staked everything on Chevalier Garden to conquer the Grand Naval, the great foe. The founder declares that his true purpose is to reveal the legacy of the ancient civilization slumbering within the Great Naval. The captain of the 3rd Brigade remarks that, according to rumors, he plans to present this directly to His Majesty the King as a way to ascend and become Lord of Bristol. The Viscount makes it clear that one way or another they must find a way to open the entrance to the Grand Naval, no matter the cost, and warns that if there is no progress, all will lose their positions as captains. Veronica bristles and asks if that is a threat of dismissal, to which Rudark coldly replies that he cannot sustain useless people. The captain of the 3rd Brigade snaps back at him, and Cynthia scolds him, asking that he mind his words. At that moment, the captain of the 4th Brigade provokes, saying that instead of fighting over leadership under a muscle-brain woman, they could at least redirect the budget to the 3rd Brigade. Iris, enraged, orders him to shut up and be silent, sparking a heated argument between the two. The protagonist watches the scene and wonders if his partner is facing difficulties, feeling that he must act. Desmond looks at his hands, then faces the brigadiers and states that the most important thing is information. If there were a method of infiltration in Bristol, it would have surfaced by now. That means the answer may lie outside their territory. He proposes forming alliances with external adventurer clans and sharing information. Cynthia agrees at once, saying she maintains good relations with various clans and that this should be done without delay. The founder, however, questions the risk of other clans getting ahead and warns that if the solution truly lies outside Bristol, they must deploy personnel to search directly. The captain of the 3rd Brigade retorts that such a decision is reckless. The enchantment mage watches silently and concludes that the meeting has reached a deadlock. Great clans bring great problems. Annoyed, the Viscount slams his hand on the table and demands to know where Zex is. MacDonald answers that the 2nd captain is working on a parallel matter with Larafim. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Zex walks alongside Master Rafim. He comments that the Black Bracer hideout should be nearby, and Nolan warns him not to let his guard down. They advance into a silent village, and Rafim frowns, asking if they are truly in the right place. The guards confirm. This is indeed the Black Bracer's hideout. Nolan explains that the Black Bracer may have obtained elixirs of human body mutation. Recalling earlier reports, she warns her partner to be careful. Zex states that if they can intercept before use, there will be no threat. A noise echoes as Zex kicks down the door. Everyone inside looks shocked. They step in, and Rafim scolds him, saying he could have acted with more tact. Valerius just laughs, claiming that destroying, defeating, and restraining is the most effective method. A bald man stands up, asking who they think they are. The occupants draw weapons and accuse them of being Bristol guards alongside Chevalier members, vowing to wipe them out. Nolan smiles and releases her power, saying they should not play with such dangerous things. In an instant, the enemies fall to the ground after her strike. A hooded woman, smiling, orders them to use the child. The bald man agrees, blows into something, and cracks spread along the wall. A light rises, the structure breaks apart, and a monstrous wolf emerges. The two captains exchange glances. Zex asks if it is a demi-human, but Rafim replies no, it is a type she has never seen before. He wonders if it is the result of mutation elixirs, and Nolan speculates it might be, perhaps a mass-produced version that preserves the ego rather than suppresses abilities. For more details, only the leader could clarify. The hooded woman slips away, and Rafim points out that she is the leader, leaving the small fry for Zex. Nolan dashes after her while Valerius smiles, inviting his opponents to face him. One of the youths yells that he is only one man and tells everyone to attack together. The captain of the 2nd Brigade responds with a straight punch, flooring him, then quickly strikes others nearby. 4 youths freeze in fear, asking if he is the legendary Iron Arm. The wolf lunges, Zex clenches his fist and tries to strike, but the monster dodges with an agile leap. Valerius comments that its only advantage is speed. The boys grin, thinking they've won, but Zex releases magic power and slashes the enemy, wounding it severely. He corrects them, saying they got it wrong. He is no brawler, but a mage. Valerius continues unleashing energy while elsewhere, Nolan chases the leader, striking repeatedly. She notices the woman evading efficiently until Kate suddenly halts and declares she cannot escape the room anymore, the space now shortened. Rafim smiles and asks if she really is the leader of the Black Bracer. Kate answers cryptically without confirming. Nolan warns that if she does not speak now, she will make her spill the truth in detail later. Rafim releases her magic, asserting it will be inside a prison cell, while Nolan presses the assault with quick strikes. Kate barely dodges, but Rafim notes her escape was sloppy. A blinding light erupts with a crash, and the blow tears through the enemy's arm. Kate smiles even as she loses the limb and her hood falls, revealing her face. Nolan stares, surprised, as Kate leaps through a window, shattering the glass. Rafim shouts for her to wait, watching closely. From atop the roof, Kate declares that such was expected of the mage known as the Crimson Madness of Chevalier's 1st Brigade. Her arm regenerates swiftly, and she vows that next time she will kill him, vanishing soon after. On the lower floor, the men are already bound and the wolf defeated. The captain of the 2nd Brigade remarks that this should be enough, but a voice rises, reprimanding them for going too far. Zex turns to see his partner. Noland criticizes, saying he should restrain himself more, but Valerius retorts there is no need for mercy against evil. They ask if the woman managed to escape, and Rafim confirms, but reveals she discovered her identity and that the emblem found is unmistakable. Noland recalls something, and the captain of the 2nd Brigade states at least they obtained valuable information. They unroll the map found, and Zex points out that it holds the key to the Grand Navel, the dungeon called the 5th Terror, also known as the 5 Nightmares. Days after the raid on the Blackbracer hideout, all commanders gather. The founder demands to know the urgent matter. Cynthia thanks him for coming and asks the captain of the 2nd Brigade to present. Zex displays the map, and the Viscount asks what it is. MacDonald explains it was obtained during the operation at the Blackbracer hideout. The location indicated is a dungeon that holds the 5 keys required to open the Grand Navel. The protagonist, astonished, thinks about the 5 keys and sees everyone paying close attention. Rudark, incredulous, demands they repeat the information. Iris says she had never heard of such a dungeon and questions its existence. Valerius confirms, showing old documents. The 5th Terror, the 5 Nightmares, the Mausoleum of Thayer's Flame, the Soul Eater's Cave, the Corridor of Divine Punishment, the Infinite Prison, and the Mausoleum of the Underworld King. Desmond reflects that the 5th Terror is an extremely high difficulty dungeon, equivalent to Ultra A rank. Cynthia reinforces that all 5 lie outside Briston. Herman appears confused, while Veronica admits she is impressed. The enchantment mage thinks it is absurd. To open the Grand Navel, they would need to conquer 5 Ultra A rank dungeons, an insane task. At that moment, the founder begins clapping, congratulating them. He says this is heaven's will, for with this knowledge they can surpass all other clans. Cynthia, however, warns that the information has already been passed to the guard unit. Shocked, the Viscount demands an explanation. MacDonald clarifies that the guard has already informed Lord Briston and the Labyrinth Association, which will announce the news the next day. Rudark grits his teeth in anger. The captain of the 4th Brigade observes that Briston will erupt in turmoil regardless, and the competition will be bloody. Veronica asks if everyone will rush to the 5th Terror in search of the keys. Zex replies not necessarily, but assures that those who conquer the 5th Terror and obtain the keys will be far closer to opening the Grand Navel, though it will also make them targets. Cynthia adds they need not take that risk since they could simply steal the keys from those who succeed. The protagonist thinks that indeed makes sense. The Viscount then declares that the strategy is simple. They will conquer all 5 dungeons simultaneously. Everyone is stunned. He insists they must seize all the keys at once and then immediately open the Grand Navel. MacDonald protests, reminding him that attempting 5 ultra-ranked dungeons at once is reckless, especially since most of the 1st Brigade is on the expedition. But Rudark counters that if they delay, other clans will get ahead. He asserts that as leader, his orders are absolute. Iris mutters that they are once again under tyranny. The founder, however, turns to the novice. He declares that Desmond possesses enhancement magic of incredible power, and that shortly after joining Chevalier, he already gathered rank D adventurers and conquered a rank B dungeon. He asks whether, with him present, it would not be simple to conquer even a rank A dungeon. The protagonist thinks to himself that this is completely irrational. The Viscount, impatient, orders them to conquer those dungeons at once, calling the captains incompetent. Herman protests that it is dangerous to place so much trust in a child and offers the 4th Brigade to take on the mission. Veronica pushes back, outraged, saying the 3rd Brigade has already conquered dungeons of that level in a short time and can do the same again. Rudark orders everyone to be silent and turns once more to Desmond, asking if he isn't the key to all this. The tension rises. The captains trading irritated looks. Cynthia, resolute, steps forward and declares that she herself will take on the simultaneous conquest of the 5th Terror, the 5 Nightmares. All eyes turn to her, and MacDonald adds that she will be the one to draw up the strategy. The Viscount studies her, sighs, and agrees, saying very well, but the captains will still need to find a way to carry out the order without wasting time. A heavy silence falls. Desmond, uneasy, thinks that conquering 5 Ultra A dungeons at the same time would be reckless even for Chevalier, and wonders if he too will be forced to go. Outside the chamber, he notices Cynthia wearing the same rigid expression as before, recalling the moment Rudark yelled at them all. It is then that Rafim appears, apologizing for the interruption and saying she must discuss something urgent about the 5th Terror. She reveals that during the raid on the Blackbracer hideout, several illegal potions were confiscated, creations that are strictly forbidden. Startled, Cynthia and Desmond exchange glances. MacDonald presses for details, and Nolan explains they are the same body mutation elixirs Gin once used on Adele. Unlike the Hydra, the creature they fought in the hideout was more stable, though with milder effects, which suggests the enemy may have discovered a method of mass production. Cynthia can barely believe it, while the protagonist lowers his head, reflecting on the danger if such substances spread. McDonald notes that the Black Bracer is a criminal organization, but they never had the technology or expertise to produce forbidden drugs. He asks if someone is collaborating with them. Rafim confirms, revealing she saw a familiar woman's face in the hideout. Cynthia demands to know who, and Nolan answers. Not just anyone comparable to the Black Bracer, but a member of the Five Fingers. Desmond, confused, asks who they are. Rafim explains, the Five Fingers are a legendary clan of adventurers. 5 Rank S elites, renowned for their skill but infamous as criminals, who would do anything to achieve their aims. The woman she saw was most likely Kate Sora, a hedonistic healer and brilliant alchemist. For her, producing forbidden drugs would be child's play. However, the group vanished from the public eye years ago after losing their leader. Desmond asks if this means they are moving again. Heads bow in silence, and Cynthia quietly asks whether they should attempt to speak with him. Nolan says the choice will be hers. Later, in a candlelit corridor, Cynthia, McDonald, and Desmond descend a stairwell. He asks what lies in Chevalier's basement. McDonald replies that even as acting captain, he deserves to know the truth. They open a door and the enchantment mage is stunned, as powerful energy flows across the chamber through a magic circle. He asks if it is a barrier. Rafim explains it is a prison built with overwhelmingly powerful magic. Cynthia approaches, inserts a key into a cylinder, and within the barrier is revealed a man sitting in silence. Desmond asks who he is, and McDonald answers, Donovan Osric, the former captain of Chevalier's 1st Brigade and the leader of the Five Fingers. In his hand gleams an unmistakable symbol. The protagonist reels, wondering how the leader of the Five Fingers could be an ex-brigade captain and why he is imprisoned here. Cynthia explains that his power was too immense to confine in the central prison, so he was sealed in this indestructible barrier created by 5 comrades. Rafim's work. Nolan steps forward and confronts him, asking if behind the Black Bracer's title he remains one of the Five Fingers, and what he is plotting. Donovan stays silent. Desmond asks what he did. McDonald answers firmly. Donovan assaulted and murdered his own clan members, leaked information, manufactured forbidden drugs, trafficked people, and conspired to overthrow the state. The enchantment mage widens his eyes at the list. Donovan turns his gaze aside and in a calm voice asks if he is the rumored enhancement mage. Surprised, Desmond asks how he knows. The prisoner only smiles and replies that he has heard he casts very interesting spells. The protagonist asks Donovan if he knows about multiplicative enhancement. Osric answers cryptically, perhaps. Before Desmond can press further, Cynthia calls sharply, warning him not to try and hold a proper conversation with that man. Rafim steps up to the prison and asks if he knows about the 5th terror, the 5 nightmares, and if he too has his eyes on the S-rank dungeon. Donovan replies it would be better not to touch that subject. According to him, that dungeon has its own circumstances. The 5th terror is a trial, and conquering it will be a crossroads of destiny for everyone. They leave the basement, frustrated at gaining no concrete answers. Desmond walks in thought. McDonald watches his expression and says, that man committed one more crime. The enchantment mage asks what, and Cynthia explains, stacking enhancement magic. The protagonist is stunned, asking if that means he too is... McDonald confirms, yes, Donovan is like him, an enhancement mage. The next day in Bristol, Rin trains by striking a tree with her sword. Meanwhile, rumors about the 5 nightmares spread everywhere, said to be the 5 keys needed to open the Grand Navel. She recalls Dorothy remarking that the whole city now talks of the 5th terror. Determined, Rin declares that they too will face that dungeon. The mage retorts that its difficulty is far too high, too dangerous. Garand agrees, but Rin insists that with Desmond at their side, they will succeed. Dorothy stares at her seriously and warns that even with Desmond, their limit until now has been B-rank dungeons, and they cannot fool themselves. Rin, defiant, replies that they simply need to become stronger, that with training an A rank will be nothing, and she walks off. Dorothy calls after her, asking her to wait. The veteran comments that whatever the purpose, seeking strength is sound logic, but cautions not to bring trouble onto Desmond. The mage admits it is risky, but believes that with effort, it is possible. Later, Rin trains alone again. She thinks she cannot be a burden to her partner. Since then, Dorlin has studied magic under a master, while the elder returned to the family forge, receiving new equipment and training. Despite everyone's opinions, all are preparing for the terror to come, and Rin refuses to fall behind. Exhausted, she sits, opens a book, and says she has been studying diligently. She borrowed the volume from the library, Records of the Eastern Sword Technique, a military manual left by a swordsman from a distant eastern land. One passage describes training to cut 12 falling leaves with a single strike. Rin reads that the key is not arm strength, but trust in speed. Rising, she tests the strike and only manages to cut 3 leaves. Dissatisfied, she mutters, "It is not enough," and vows not to give up, resuming stance to keep cutting. At night, alone, she applies medicine to her wounds, wincing at the sting. She thinks that if she had Desmond's multiplicative enhancement, it would be easier, but shakes her head and decides she will do it with her own strength. She will surely succeed. The next day, back in the forest, she resumes her drills. Spotting someone lying ahead, she asks if he is alive. Seeing his ragged clothes, she assumes he is a vagabond. If he can endure so much, he can train too. She tries again to cut the leaves, but only brings down 3. Frustrated, she complains aloud. At that moment, voices approach. 2 men running, arguing about grabbing something valuable and fleeing. Seeing Rin, they order her to get out of the way, promising to spare her if she obeys. She replies that after hearing that, she cannot let them escape. The bandits call her a brat and rush her. Rin leaps to fight, but they deflect and knock her sword to the ground. They comment that she has speed but no strength at all. Rin braces to continue, but suddenly the 2 drop as they are struck from behind. Shocked, she sees the boy who had been meditating as the one who downed them. He remarks that she has strong legs but only uses them for speed. Rin bristles, calling him noisy and insisting she only let her guard down. The boy explains she must invert her pivot foot while cutting, especially on the back step. Rin, suspicious, wonders who he thinks he is. Still, she adjusts her stance, sets her foot, and says she will try. With blade raised, she strikes again. On the second motion, she slices a leaf. On the third, she applies the inverted pivot. On the fourth, she cuts several leaves cleanly in midair. She stares in disbelief, astonished at the result. She looks at the stranger and demands to know who he is. The boy brushes hair from his face and meets her gaze directly. He says that speed is a weapon, and when trained to its limits, it becomes a blade that can cut through anything. Drawing his sword, he makes rapid movements, and Rin gasps as she sees 10 leaves severed at once. Amazed, she exclaims it is incredible, and the warrior replies that her eyes are sharp as well. The swordswoman asks who he is, and the warrior introduces himself as Cassandra, just a hermit. Rin questions what it means to be a hermit, but quickly presses him to teach her the way of the sword since he is free. Cassandra counters that he is not her master yet and asks why she chose to be an adventurer, why she seeks strength. Rin explains she is the 3rd daughter of an impoverished provincial noble who always preferred martial tournaments and sword training over the social gatherings expected by her family. She admired stories of adventurers fighting dragons and wished to be like them, but her parents said such things were not for women. Determined, she ran away from home to Bristol, seeking enough strength to be recognized. Now she says she also needs to grow strong for her companions, because she is weak and always falls behind. Cassandra studies her and says what she needs is relentless training, running 1,000 times a day and 2,000 sword swings, starting immediately. Rin brightens, thanks him, and calls him master, but soon is shocked at the sheer numbers. Even so, she begins running and continues training by his side. After days of effort, she manages to cut 9 leaves in one strike. Proud, she calls Cassandra to witness, and he replies yes, he saw it all, and that if she maintains the pace, 11 leaves soon won't be a problem. Rin asks if he's serious, and he confirms her hard work has paid off, but warns that starting tomorrow, he can no longer come. Before parting, he reminds her not to neglect daily exercises and swings, because her speed will certainly become a weapon, as long as she doesn't abandon the basics. Rin wonders about the final test, but Cassandra only says the end never matters. She lowers her head, decides to celebrate the 9 leaves, and thanks him for the training. Later, at a restaurant, Rin comments he looks different in that setting. Cassandra explains that this is how he dresses in public. She teases that hiding his face with hair doesn't change much, and asks why he came to Bristol. Cassandra reveals he once had a dojo in the East, but closed it years ago for certain reasons, and came to the city at the request of a benefactor. He then declares that the weak have no value, that the law of the world is clear, only the strong survive. Rin becomes excited, promises she will grow strong, and thanks him. They eat and drink together, then part ways at the exit. Rin asks him to teach her again someday. Cassandra smiles and walks off in the opposite direction. Entering another place, Cassandra meets Kate Sora, who scolds him for being late and asks how many days have passed. He answers that he was merely reminiscing about the past. The symbol marked on his nape becomes visible. Kate remarks that whatever the case, she will put him to work as well. Cassandra stares at her in silence. Meanwhile, Desmond walks, thinking of how to tell everyone that the conquest of the 5th terror has been decided. The commanders, together with Rafim, will form 5 groups, each leading the invasion of one dungeon, all simultaneously. He recalls Cynthia's words, saying he should join Zex's group. The captain of the 2nd Brigade seems doubtful, not understanding why, and Desmond reflects whether a rank D like him really belongs among high-level adventurers. The Viscount had insisted there was no choice. Desmond wonders if Rank D adventures are even allowed entry, and Cynthia explains yes, because the 5 nightmares lie in the outskirts of Bristol, and the Guild Association hasn't taken control yet. For now, anyone can enter freely. Desmond reflects on this, while the captain of the 2nd Brigade declares his group doesn't need an enhancement mage, much less a young, low-ranked adventurer. The enchantment mage falls silent, unsure how to reply. Then Cynthia steps in, addressing the commander formally and asserting that even if her partner lacks experience, she herself can protect him and vouches that his skills are genuine. Valerius lowers his head, McDonald calls his name, and Zex says he understands, closing the tension. Cynthia thanks him, but the enchantment mage feels the heavy atmosphere, noting how reluctant the captain of the 2nd Brigade seems. The protagonist lowers his head too, reminding himself he has his own companions. Valerius comments that taking care of Desmond alone will already be troublesome enough, and he cannot shoulder more responsibilities, making Desmond think he understood his position. In the present, at a tavern, the enchantment mage feels a weight in his chest, but smiles when Rin calls him. He walks to them and announces he will take part in the conquest of the 5th terror, the 5 nightmares. The swordswoman answers cheerfully that they were waiting for that. The veteran adds that they will all conquer together, but the mage bows her head when Desmond explains that this time only a limited group will join, including the brigade captains, and asks them all to wait. Rin protests, slamming the table asking why they cannot go, since they are companions of the same group, and insists that if he goes, they will too. The enchantment mage replies the situation is different, that fate leads them to an ultra-rank dungeon and he cannot risk their lives. The swordswoman, hurt, asks if they are just dead weight. He has no answer, and the mage scolds her for saying that. Garand calmly admits he understands Desmond's words, since they cannot deny their lack of strength. Rin insists they can help if they keep training, but Desmond shouts that just this once, he does not trust himself to protect everyone, and he does not want anyone to die. Silence hangs until Dorothy reminds him of what he said before, that he should not bear everything alone and can count on them. She adds that his decision comes from worry because he is a kind person, and asks that he return alive. The enchantment mage reflects on how he is always helped by everyone and apologizes. That night, in his room, Desmond packs his things, reflecting that tomorrow has finally come. He thinks of not causing problems for Zex until he notices a potion inside his bag, with a strange scent reminiscent of women's clothes, and wonders what it is. He recalls Rin's words about being dead weight and thinks how much he'd like to have them by his side, but sees no solution. A noise interrupts him, the door opens, and Cynthia enters. He asks if something happened, and she asks if he has finished preparations for tomorrow. Desmond confirms, and she says she is prepared too. The protagonist wonders if she came only for that. They face each other in silence until Cynthia explains Rafim asked her to check his condition. He understands. Hesitant, she asks if he would like to walk as a warm-up exercise. Surprised, Desmond questions the idea of training so late, but McDonald replies it is important. Outside, they admire the beautiful view. Cynthia sits on the grass and apologizes for dragging him into such a difficult mission, saying that Hill is her favorite place. When he goes to answer, she interrupts, confessing that since they reunited by chance, she believes it was fate. She tells him she left her hometown first, dreaming of exploring dungeons at his side, but never imagined they would truly meet again. Desmond watches her and remembers that at that time he was glad she recalled their childhood promise, that one day they would conquer an S-rank dungeon together. He thought he was the only one who remembered. Cynthia smiles brightly, happy to see he had not forgotten. Desmond declares he became an adventurer because of her, that one day he will stand beside her conquering an S-rank dungeon, because that dream carried him until now, and that he has admired her for a very long time. Cynthia blushes, and he clarifies he admires her as a person. She, touched, admits she never knew he thought that way and is very happy. She embraces him, and Desmond awkwardly wraps his arms around her. McDonald declares they are companions pursuing the same conquest and asks to be his sword, but also that he protect her. Looking into his eyes, she adds that she wants to be the one who supports him. He smiles, understanding, and promises to become that for her. Cynthia confirms they will go to the S-rank dungeon together, just the two of them. Desmond recalls Rin's words, that she wanted to go too if possible, and Cynthia comments that is just like him. Before they leave, she states that whatever happens, they will complete tomorrow's mission toward the Grand Navel, asking him not to lose his life. He promises the same. Under the moonlight, the two remain side by side, fingers touching, sharing a quiet silence. Before the enormous castle, countless people are gathered. Cynthia walks in front, accompanied by Desmond and his group, while several other teams line up around them. Desmond watches the high-level adventurers and wonders if someone like him should really be there. One of the warriors tells the others to take a good look, saying there's an outsider among them, and questioning whether a skinny guy like that can really handle it. The enchantment mage hears this and thinks the man is absolutely right. Suddenly, a firm voice echoes telling everyone to line up. It's Cynthia saying they were chosen for this great mission. She offers a prayer asking for everyone's success, emphasizing that they need to obtain the keys and that the Grand Navel stands before them. The units begin to depart, horses move out, and hidden figures watch from a distance. Garand asks if they're really going after them, and Rin answers that of course they are, saying he's surrounded by terrifying people. Dorothy comments that even though Desmond's enhancement magic is amazing, if he doesn't know how to deal with others, he might not be able to show his true potential, and that this was the reason for his banishment. But she warns them not to do anything reckless. Rin says he knows and assures her that if things get dangerous, they'll escape immediately. Elsewhere, they keep riding. Zex laughs and says he never thought Desmond would actually follow him, that he should have stayed quietly at home. He says that inside the dungeon, Desmond will hide behind him anyway, since Cynthia ordered him to protect him, and if anything happens to him, Zex won't be able to show his face. The protagonist lowers his head and the others laugh. Desmond then says that's not necessary since he's also a member of the Conquest team and will fight alongside them as an enhancement mage. Valerius says nothing. The enchantment mage widens his eyes, thinking Desmond is doing all this just to stay close to his partner. Zex comments that he looks like a full-fledged adventurer, and Desmond wonders if he was recognized. Valerius then gives them some advice. Someone once said something similar and lost their life for overestimating their own power, emphasizing that Desmond's place is not by his side but behind him. Desmond is bothered, and soon the rain starts to fall. The group takes shelter under a rock and later continues on foot, pulling their horses. Later, they build a campfire until a strange sound echoes. The enchantment mage looks ahead and asks if that's the statue of the king of the underworld, realizing it's a mausoleum, the king's own tomb. The protagonist notices his companions whispering off to the side and thinks he needs to be careful. The commander makes a hand gesture and orders them to advance. They enter a dark place lit by torches, commenting on how hard it is to see. In the darkness, they can barely distinguish the path when a loud crash resounds, followed by screams for help. Adventurers run in a panic, fleeing from undead. Desmond tries to use his enhancement magic, but Zex pulls him back, saying he already warned him to stay behind. The monsters keep approaching, and Valerius grabs one by the head, crushing it with a single blow. A voice comments that the fifth terror, the Five Nightmares, seems to be a dungeon in name only, pretty lukewarm. Everyone draws their weapons, and the protagonist watches carefully. Zex suddenly orders everyone to advance and annihilate the undead. The enchantment mage tries to enhance magic again, but Valerius says his help isn't needed. The protagonist asks about the monsters, and Zex replies that it's a silly question. Since they are elite members of the glorious 2nd Brigade, the monsters are defeated within seconds, and Desmond is impressed, thinking it's incredible to see rank B monsters being taken down so easily. He thinks it's just what you'd expect from the 2nd Brigade, a group of specialists right below Cynthia and Larafim. The enchantment mage notices something and runs to one of the injured adventurers, asking about his arm. Zex asks what he's doing, and Desmond answers that he's treating the wound. Valerius tells him to leave them, saying that with quick treatment they can resume the conquest, and that they're just people who trip over anything. He says that if they return now, there's no danger of losing their lives, and that obtaining the key is the highest priority. He adds that if Desmond insists on helping, he'll be left behind without protection. The group keeps moving, and Desmond watches in silence until an adventurer calls out to him and tells him not to worry, urging him to move on. The enchantment mage thinks it's true they came to obtain the key, but abandoning wounded people deeply bothers him, so he apologizes. Desmond hands them a potion and tells them to use it, then casts a vitality enhancement on everyone. After that, he starts running, while his 3 partners remain hidden, watching every step he takes. The warriors continue fighting the monsters, and Zex holds the torch, lighting the path as the attacks go on. Suddenly, the group stops before a large door. A sound echoes and a huge crystal appears ahead. The enchantment mage asks if that is a crystal, and his hidden partners are also impressed. Valerius watches in silence until he senses a presence. Mana shifts, and a female voice manifests, welcoming them. It is a woman who introduces herself as Sarah, their guide. The adventurers exchange confused looks, and Zex observes her closely. Desmond wonders who this guide is, while Rin, watching from afar, asks if she is a ghost and what all of this means. Dorothy replies that she is not, that she might be a spirit. The manas continue flowing, and Sarah explains that she was tasked with guiding those who visit the mausoleum to honor the king of the underworld. She says that although her power is small, she hopes to assist them as guests of this place. Desmond pays close attention to her words. Then a voice announces that they must touch the crystal to be transferred to the middle floor, where the key to the Grand Navel is located, guarded by the king of the underworld. She explains that the king valued companions above all, and that if they show the strength of their bonds, they will surely obtain the key. Desmond understands this means working together with their companions to conquer the dungeon and asks if that is what she means. The guide smiles and says exactly, reinforcing that they must value their companions. Zex stares at her in silence. The enchantment mage thinks that working with companions is obvious, yet he still feels there is something hidden in her words. Valerius says that regardless, they cannot stand there doing nothing, and decides to move forward. Sarah touches the crystal and wishes them a safe journey, as a magic circle lights up around them. The guide says she hopes to meet them again, and a bright light covers the area. Rin and her group are also surrounded by another magic circle, and wonder if they are at the same point. An even stronger light appears, and everyone is transported to the king's mausoleum on the middle floor. Desmond wakes up on the cold ground and asks where he is. The surroundings are completely empty. He calls for the commander and the others, but no one answers. The enchantment mage widens his eyes and wonders if they were scattered to different transfer points. He thinks he needs to find them quickly. Then he gets an idea and uses hearing enhancement, picking up distant sounds and trying to understand the situation. He manages to sense signs of presence and feels a strong reaction, concluding it must be the rest of the group. He tells himself they were indeed separated, but he finds it strange that he cannot sense any monsters. Deep in thought, he activates vision enhancement and notices something dangerous. As he suspected, it was a trap. They were scattered on purpose. He runs with a determination, thinking he must warn the others as soon as possible. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the dungeon, the warriors are exhausted and sitting on the ground. Desmond arrives and thinks he may have come too late. He sees injured adventurers, and one of them apologizes to the commander. Zex answers that he is the one who should apologize since he should have predicted the trap, and he lowers his head in remorse. The enchantment mage watches and thinks that despite his cold demeanor, he is humble and values his subordinates. The protagonist then says they should return to base, but Valerius refuses, stating they cannot go back without obtaining the key. Desmond insists they need to treat everyone quickly, but one of the adventurers says he can still fight and tries to stand. The enchantment mage stops him, saying he must not move because of his injuries. Suddenly, a voice tells them to wait a moment. Everyone looks toward the voice, confused. Footsteps approach, and someone says a helper has arrived in this time of trouble. It is Desmond's companions, Rin, and her group. The enchantment mage is surprised and doesn't understand how they found the way. Zex asks who those people are, and Desmond answers that they are his teammates. He asks how they knew where he was, and Rin, smiling, explains she spent all the money she had to buy a magic tool. She placed a piece of cloth soaked with Des Kuhn's sweat inside a tracking compass that follows the trail he leaves behind. Desmond remembers Rin had taken his handkerchief before, and she confirms with a smile, saying that since there are injured people, they can cooperate in their place. She says that on that night they were rejected and she still can't accept it, asking if they are not all companions. She says they are not people who need to be protected, but allies who fight side by side. She explains that they rely heavily on enhancement magic, but now they have become strong enough to surprise him. Garand calls out to him and asks him to trust their strength, and Dorothy adds that they won't overdo it. Rin says they won't lose their lives that easily. The protagonist becomes emotional and smiles at their determination. At that moment, a firm voice cuts through the air, ordering them to end this farce. It is Zex saying he doesn't know what they are thinking, but that to conquer the dungeon, only people capable of fighting are necessary, and the weak must return to the surface immediately. Rin frowns and asks who that old man is, saying they were at a good part of the conversation, but Dorothy interrupts her, calling her attention and explaining that he's from the 2nd Brigade. Everyone is shocked. Valerius watches and says he understands, asking if she is claiming to be superior to his subordinates. Rin answers without hesitation that she is. Irritated, Zex replies that if she will talk that much, then she should show her abilities, asking if she can cross through there. A bright light manifests and a spell is released. Dorothy comments that he sent them back to the surface, and Desmond thanks her. Zex, impatient, says they will now begin immediately and orders them to get through that trap. He explains that his subordinates probably fell into a trap when trying to cross that path. Valerius picks up a stone and throws it ahead. As soon as it touches the ground, an attack triggers, the sound echoing through the walls. Everyone looks surprised, and Zex concludes that most of that passage must be full of traps. The enchantment mage activates his ocular ability to see the dangers and confirms that the entire floor is covered with them. The moment they step forward, large amounts of sulfuric acid will be expelled from the walls, and the deactivation switch is about 50 meters ahead at the exit. Valerius says he understands, recognizing that as the power of Desmond's enhancement magic, and concludes that if there are so many mechanisms, this is the path they must follow. Desmond lowers his head and says he will cast an enhancement spell, but Rin interrupts him and says he can leave it to her. He stares at her, and Rin explains that if she runs before the acid is released, she can make it across without being hit. The enchantment mage asks her to wait a minute and argues that even with her high agility, it is still impossible, asking her to at least let him strengthen her. Rin refuses, saying there is still a long road ahead and they need to save magic power. Besides, that is the old man's challenge, and she wants to make him acknowledge her strength. Desmond tries to stop her, but Rin stands firm. She then launches herself forward, moving at astonishing speed. Desmond and Zex watch in shock as she crosses all the traps and reaches the switch. Rin pulls it, thrilled, and the enchantment mage comments in awe that it was incredible. Dorothy agrees, saying she was also shocked the first time she saw it and that Rin has been working hard in her training. Garand adds that he himself has also been training repeatedly because they all want to help and are no longer dead weight. The protagonist smiles proudly. Valeria says they seem somewhat useful and congratulates them, allowing them to accompany him. Rin keeps moving quickly, disabling traps one by one. Explosions erupt, and Garand raises his shield, blocking the impacts while Dorothy unleashes a strong and powerful spell. Desmond also takes action, using his enhancement ability, until they finally reach a key. Rin asks if that is the key to the Grand Navel, and Zex replies that it could be a trap, but it's worth checking. The enchantment mage observes the lightning striking down like arrows and says they need to do something about it. Rin asks what they should do and if she should attack again, but Desmond stops her, saying that this time he wants to help them too. After all, if that is the final location, no one knows what may happen. He then uses agility enhancement and mental enhancement, raising everyone's concentration and perception. Zex watches, impressed by the attribute boost. The three begin moving forward calmly under the effect of the skill, dodging the attacks without being hit. Garand raises his shield and activates the domain of absolute defense. Desmond asks if that is a defensive barrier covering such a large area and when he learned such a skill. Garand answers that now it is his partner's turn, and Rin confirms she understands before charging forward at the high speed toward the next attack. Flames burst out and Rin keeps advancing quickly. Dorothy says she won't let her go alone and activates her collapse magic, changing the attribute of the water sphere into an ice bullet. A terrifyingly powerful shot is fired, freezing the flames and opening a path for Rin to continue forward as she gets closer and closer to the key. When she finally reaches it, everyone looks toward her, and even Rin herself is surprised that she managed to succeed. The enchantment mage celebrates, saying they achieved that using only their own powers, and Rin excitedly asks if they aren't incredible. But the ice around them begins to crack. The protagonist shouts for her to be careful, and a sudden attack is launched, causing a huge explosion. Rin is thrown to the ground, and Zex uses his power to protect her, saying he acknowledges her superhuman speed but warns her not to lower her guard until the end. Rin replies that he's not bad at all, and soon everyone gathers again, commenting that now they can finally enter the Grand Navel. However, the key disappears and the guide appears, saying it was magnificent work, praising the strength of their bonds that allowed them to overcome that trial so admirably. They observe her, and Zex comments that the key was indeed fake. Sarah confirms, saying that of course more tests remain. Valerius tries to attack her, but the strike passes straight through her body and hits the stone behind her without causing any damage. The protagonist asks if the attack really went right through her, and Sarah explains that impatience is forbidden, saying she understands the eagerness to enjoy the fun quickly, but everything must follow the proper order. The group becomes uneasy, and the guide announces that the next floor's challenge will be to face themselves. Everyone trades confused looks, and Sarah states that with strong bonds they will overcome, saying she looks forward to it. A magic circle is invoked again, and they appear in another room. They look around and see ahead a terrifying undead, emitting an overwhelming aura. Desmond asks if that might be the king of the underworld, and Zex answers that since there's a throne and a crown, it seems so. Rin asks if that means defeating him will give them the key, saying that if it's just a skeleton, it will be easy. The enchantment mage looks around, remembering the words about the trial being against themselves, and wonders what that means. The undead introduces himself as Morphus and says their opponents will be the beings before them. Ahead, several cards appear, summoning people identical to them, perfect clones. Zex understands and says the trial really is themselves, seeing it clearly. The shadows advance, and Rin asks what they are. Dorothy explains they are materializations of targets reflected in dark mirrors, a type of special class black magic. Rin asks if that means they'll have to fight themselves. The protagonist casts enhancement magic on everyone, but Desmond notices something strange. His own clone also casts enhancement magic on the others. Rin, surprised, asks if they are using enhancement too, and the enchantment mage thinks that just as expected, the other one also uses multiplicative enhancement. Dorothy's clone casts her spell and Garand raises the absolute defense domain to block it. The mage continues releasing power until she notices a clone approaching. and Rin jumps in front, blocking the attack from her own clone and saying, "Being hurt is awful." The old man's clone also appears, and the swordswoman says, "That's bad, but the attack doesn't land because someone stops it." It is Valerius who says everything is just illusions created by magic and they must not be deceived. The enchantment mage observes and notes that the stats and abilities are exactly the same as well as their coordination, but the shadows do not tire at all. The longer the battle drags on, the more disadvantageous it becomes for them. At that moment, the protagonist decides to act, and Rin asks what he's going to do. As he runs, Desmond answers that he has an idea, and his clone begins running beside him. The enchantment mage grabs a potion and throws it at the clone. Everyone is shocked when the clone begins screaming in pain. The protagonist smiles, saying it was just as he thought. Rin asks what he's doing, and Desmond replies that he used the potion he had given her, the same one that smells like half-dry clothes. He explains that this made it clear the countermeasure against the shadows is using external factors they cannot copy, since shadows only reproduce internal factors, meaning only attributes and abilities, not equipment or items. Zex observes and says so, that's how it is. Valerius borrows the swordsman's blade while the enchantment mage takes his partner's shield, and the two charge together toward the clones, ready for real combat. The clones rush in quickly, but the protagonist activates Vitality Boost, blocking the massive attack with the shield and his skill, signaling to his partner. Zex responds that he understands, and Valerius bursts forward at a high speed, cutting down all the enemies. Rin says the attack worked, and after defeating the clones, they head toward the king of the underworld. The monster smiles and summons more figures. 2 girls. Everyone watches, and Desmond asks if that is Cynthia. Zex widens his eyes and questions whether that is even possible. Vix. They exchange worried looks as the two approach, and the enchantment mage asks if Valerius knows them. He stays silent for a moment, then says she was defeated 100 years ago. His own child. The protagonist is shocked and asks if that mirror creates shadows of what is reflected. The king of the underworld replies that his shadow is special, capable of manifesting not only what is reflected in the mirror, but also the most magnificent being hidden within their hearts. The clone moves, absorbing mana, and Desmond asks if the shadows were absorbed. The enchantment mage senses something and thinks the stats have reached unbelievable levels, concluding that even with multiplicative enhancement, that is not an opponent they can face. He wonders if there is any way to win until one of the clones disappears. The protagonist looks back and sees the clone appearing behind his teammates with killing intent. Garand raises Absolute Wall, the domain of total defense, assuming the target is his companion. The clone tries to strike, but they dodge at the last moment. Zex whispers the name Vix. The clone attempts another blow, but Valerius stops it with his hand. The clone asks if he intends to eliminate him again. Zex's eyes widen as he is thrown far away. The enchantment mage cries out desperately for him, but the clone rushes at him, saying they should end this. The protagonist is struck from behind by a sword. Rin, collapsed on the ground, watches desperately as her partner is wounded, and everyone shows concern. Zex watches in shock as Desmond falls to the floor, thinking only of Cynthia and whether he can make their dream come true. The enchantment mage loses consciousness and awakens in another place, lying on a surface. The protagonist wakes up confused, asking where he is and if he was defeated. A saint calls him the beloved apostle of the oracle and says the time for his choice has come as well. She closes her eyes and Desmond asks who she is and what this choice means. The saint replies that he may forget everything and begin anew as a mundane being, or gain even more power and walk a thorny path. Disoriented, the enchantment mage asks what that place is and if he truly died. The saint explains they stand at the border between the world of the living and the moment of passing. They face each other, and the protagonist says this cannot be, asking where everyone is now. The saint answers that his companions are still fighting in the world of the living. Stunned, Desmond listens as she tells him to make his choice. He looks at her, clenches his fist, and asks if restarting life means beginning an entirely different existence. The saint confirms. The protagonist then asks about the power increase and whether with it, he could save everyone. She answers that it would certainly be useful for that. Desmond chooses the power increase and declares that he wants to save everyone. The saint smiles and says that this is the point of no return, asking if he still desires that power. The enchantment mage touches the stone and affirms that he seeks it, because there are things he must accomplish. As he touches the magic stone, it disappears and an intense mana spreads. The saint says she has received his decision and instructs him to return to his companions. Meanwhile, in the same place as before, everyone remains in fighting stance while the protagonist lies motionless. Rin screams that she will never forgive them. The king of the underworld comments that they will still serve as good entertainment, but that this is all, until Desmond begins to move and slowly stands up. Everyone looks surprised. Dorothy calls out and asks if he is all right. An extremely bright light radiates, and Garand asks what happened to him. Zex watches, impressed, and the king of the underworld questions whether that power is a talent granted by divinities. Desmond's appearance changes, and powerful mana spreads around him. The king of the underworld stares intently while everyone is amazed. The protagonist then activates natural healing enhancement, and a light covers his body, completely restoring the wound. The king of the underworld comments that to recover injuries that would have led to death, that is an incredible healing, truly worthy of divine talents. Magnificent. The clone charges forward, but Desmond activates enhanced strength and agility, throwing the enemy with ease and slamming it into the ground. The enchantment mage observes carefully as the protagonist continues approaching. The clone tries to attack, but Desmond extends his hand and blocks the strike. He then moves with superhuman speed, grabs the clone by the neck, and crushes it with his own hands. Rin, shocked, asks if he defeated the shadow with a single blow. The king of the underworld comments that such is expected of an apostle of the oracle, but says that in the end, the result is the same. The mirror begins releasing mana and emitting an intense sound, and Dorothy, frightened, says another shadow of him is being created. The enchantment mage rushes forward and shatters the mirror into pieces. Garand comments on his incredible speed, and immediately afterward the protagonist charges at the king and lands a precise blow. Zex watches in shock, thinking of Vix. The clone takes an attack stance, and Rin calls out to him, reminding him that his son is just an illusion, as he himself had said. The clone moves to strike him, but Valerius intercepts it and slams it into the ground. He calls it his child and says it was already laid to rest, ordering it to sleep in peace. Zex calls the protagonist and says he will leave everything to him. Desmond gathers his power and charges at the king of the underworld. The monster praises his magnificent power but is instantly struck and defeated, disappearing along with the other shadows. Valerius watches as his son's clone fades away. Desmond returns to normal, still confused. Zex says it was magnificent work, and the enchantment mage asks if the battle is over. Valerius confirms, saying he defeated the King of Shadows and the King of the Underworld himself, asking if he doesn't remember. The protagonist thinks he had been stabbed and, looking down, is shocked to find no wound. Rin runs to him saying she thought he was dead, and Dorothy says she is relieved he is all right. Garand comments that even so, it's impossible to understand the depth of his power. Still disoriented, the enchantment mage asks what exactly happened. Later, still in the same place, he asks if he was really the one who did all that. Rin says he must have built up enhancement magic unconsciously, but Desmond denies it, reminding her she is wearing the conversion bracelet, which should make that impossible. Valerius says Desmond was described as someone with divine talents, abilities granted by the gods, and also as an apostle of the oracle. Desmond remembers the woman saying the same, and wonders if that power came from her, meaning it wasn't a dream. Zex says maybe. A voice echoes congratulating them. It is the guide, smiling and saying they magnificently overcame the challenge. She asks them to follow her. The enchantment mage replies that they will follow, and while walking, he asks the commander if something happened to his son. Valerius is silent for a moment, and the protagonist apologizes, saying he doesn't intend to force him to talk about it. They continue until they stop before a new scene. The guide explains that this is the mausoleum, the deepest layer of the King of the Underworld. Desmond asks if she is the opponent, but the guide says not exactly, and that from that point onward she will forge the key to the Grand Navel. Everyone watches attentively. Rin asks if this means they conquered the dungeon. The guide smiles and explains that this is where the King of the Underworld rests, and that to obtain anything of value there, something equal must be offered. Rin asks what she means, and the guide answers that if they want the key, they must offer a soul to the flame. Desmond looks horrified, thinking that cannot be real, and concludes he will never accept such a thing. The guide explains that the key is exchanged for the life of a person and asks if that isn't simple. Everyone stays silent for a moment, unable to react. Rin asks if giving up a life means someone has to die, and the guide confirms. The enchantment mage protests that this is absurd, as there is no way they could do something like that. The guide asks if they cannot decide and says that in that case she will choose herself. Rin, irritated, rushes to attack her, trying to cut her in half, but is shocked to find she is a spirit. Dorothy comments that attacks do not work on her. The guide smiles and says she serves the King of the Underworld, stating that the only thing that can interfere with her is the King's own power. Rin asks what they should do, and the protagonist says that if they fight together and conquer the dungeon, they will get the key, asking if that was a lie. The guide explains she did not lie and reminds him she told him to value his friends. Desmond asks what she means and why someone must be sacrificed, saying that even if he came there alone, he would have no way of bringing the key back, calling it absurd. The guide explains that someone must sacrifice themselves for their friends, otherwise it would not be true friendship, and asks what he would call that. Garand asks if she is implying they must prove devotion, and says that even if she wants to call it that, the joke is far too cruel. Zex comments that apparently a sacrifice really is required to obtain the key. The enchantment mage clenches his teeth, wondering if someone among them will have to lose their life, another sacrifice, and concludes he does not want that. The protagonist, overwhelmed with doubt, can only think of Cynthia and wonders if he should give up the key and retreat, unsure of what to do. He recalls her words, asking him not to die this time. Then he steps forward and says he understands, and that if someone must do it, it will be him. Suddenly, chains emerge and spread through the room, restraining everyone, including his friends. Zex had activated his ability. Desmond notices and recognizes that the magic is his. Rin tries to move but cannot, and Valerius explains those chains cannot be broken by any known power. Desmond asks why, and Zex replies that Desmond is young, with a future ahead, and does not need to sacrifice himself. He should let an old soldier handle the end of his own life. The enchantment mage insists on knowing why, and Valerius explains he remembered his son, an adventurer of the Chevalier Order, talented and admired by all, someone everyone believed would follow in his footsteps and become a brigade captain. However, he lost his life the same way, trying to save his friends. The protagonist is shocked and understands that this was Valerius's past. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new content. Thank you.